From the inception of kingdoms and governments, lying spirits and devilish doctrines have whispered in the ears and quietly crept their way next to the thrones of leadership. Serving as counselors, they advise their wicked agenda, often catching the eyes of a king with entertaining and profound feats of spiritual talent. The sorcerers in Pharaoh's council held their own against Moses and Aaron, convincing him that the men of God were performing simple parlor tricks. Mesmerized by an entertaining performance, Herod gave the order to behead John the Baptist. Nebuchadnezzar's magi advised him to cast a man he respected into a den of lions. Influencers charged with alluring magic, silver tongues, and crafty showmanship always seem to have sway over the most crucial moments in time, hardly in plain sight, but from beneath the throne and behind the curtain. Soothsayers, familiar spirits, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, alchemists, and necromancers all paid the price for a pebble's worth of power. But joined together in their secret orders of darkness, they make themselves into a sizable force. Their god is ancient, coordinated, and most of all subtle. Their forces and influence have slowly and steadily made their advance on the world. One day at a time, the darkness eats away and erodes the fortitude of a godly society. Long since the day has it been when they kept their craft a secret. With no fear of a righteous upheaval, no concern of a holy troop to take action, their true colors are shown brightly in the light of day. Under their control, government has no power. The air, the rain, the food has been poisoned. The strong and youthful are drugged and in a haze. The wise and matured are tired and drained. Their loyalty to wickedness has no end. Their love for evil knows no boundary. Their desire to corrupt the pure-hearted is never satiated. Rebellion is feeble. Legal action is useless. Their God is the God of this world. In this world, we will have tribulation. But fear not. Our God has overcome the world. He has given us the power to tread on serpents. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Our battle is not on the ground, but in the heavens. Our strength is not in our hands, but in the Spirit. Our weapons are not of a constitution, but of divine inspiration. Our armor is not of legislation, but of a righteous dedication. Our hope is not of a man in a congregation, but a Savior in heavenly habitation. Stand up now, Christian. Gird yourself and carry your cross. Be strong. The path before us is quite narrow, and there are few that can chart its course. We will walk this road together, with one Spirit, as one body, under one God, unto a place where there is no more pain, no more tears, and the comfort of our Savior for endless years. Welcome back to another episode of Ancient Echoes. My name is Bronson, my brother's name is Austin, and tonight, man, we are getting into an incredibly deep context, man. Yeah. We've got a 3-part series coming your way. We're calling it Society and Sorcery. This is part 1 of the installment, and we're talking about the founders of modern day witchcraft. If you are new here to Ancient Echoes, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Comment below and let us know what you'd like for us to cover next. If you are a returning member of the audience, thank you very much for showing back up here. We do appreciate it. Tonight's episode is going to be one that YouTube is not going to be a fan of. So I'm asking you to take a call to action. Be sure to like this video and send this thing out. Engage in the comment section. I don't care what you have to say. Nice hat, stupid hat, anything helps, man, because YouTube is not a big fan of this type of subject. But that's all I'm going to say to get things started off. Austin has taken weeks to get this episode and this whole series, to be honest with you, prepared for us. And so, Austin, man, take it away, bro.
Welcome, everybody. I am so glad we're back. We haven't dropped a video in about a week, and it's because of me. I've been studying. Bronson's been studying, and we put together a 3-part series. It's called a Society of Sorcery, and we're going to start tonight by just talking about the people, not throughout all of time, but we're going to talk about some of the people in the modern era, in the last 300 years or so, that have really pushed forward this witchcraft and sorcery and esoteric things. People within secret societies of Satan worshipers, basically. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff going on, and it permeates everything in our culture. So that's why we've called it a Society of Sorcery. And the first part here is going to be the founders. The second part is going to be a little more about the cultural side, and then the third part, we're going to go deep. And we're going to show you different rituals and other things that have to do with it, but we're going to go really deep in that one. So the first two are just kind of showing the history, current people in the second one, and then the third one will be where we go super deep. So hang in there with us, guys. This is going to be a very good show. We have lots of clips, lots of stuff to go through. I mean, there's a lot to it, man, and nowadays it's in your face. Back in the day, it was, it was hidden. And it just keeps on coming more and more to the forefront. So, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Also, parental advisory. I do not want to put any of this stuff in front of your kids, and I'm talking about this part 1, 2, or 3. Unless they're a very mature child, solid in their faith, I just suggest don't watch it with them. There's going to be a lot of between drug use, talking about different things that happen. It's going to be pretty rough at points. So I do not suggest watching it with your kids. I'm not going to show this one to my kids, just personally. I'm not. I don't even want them to know about anything. This is more for mature people to give a warning and to show exactly what this is, and so you can't be fooled by it. So Bronson, without further ado, I'm going to stop bumping my gums. Let's go ahead and get into it. We got some verses to get us started tonight. It's going to be a good show, guys. Gosh, I'm so glad to be back.
I know it, man. This just kind of recharges my battery. I've grown accustomed to doing this thing with you so often that any absence of the show in my life just leaves a void in my heart.
Yeah, we dropped a lot last week. I think we did 4 videos, a bunch of shorts, and like all kinds of stuff, man. Had a very good week, probably our best week for views ever. I know it was our best week for views ever, and that's a tribute to you guys that are watching out there. Thank you so much for coming and watching. Guys, I'm just super jacked about this series. It's going to really expose some stuff, and there's going to be a lot of things in here that there hasn't been covered a whole lot of. So let's go and get into it.
Let's do it, man. We're going to set up our foundational verse for the evening. And this comes from Matthew 10:16. And it says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves."
Who is saying this?
Oh, that's Jesus.
Yeah, by the way, guys, this is Jesus telling you to be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. Mm-hmm. Okay? So this is what really our foundation in Scripture is about for this series. This verse right here. You need to understand these things because you have to know your enemy in the spiritual war. You have to. Yes. And we're going to be covering a lot of enemies of the kingdom of God within this series. So we're going to be harmless as doves. We're not going to participate in any of this garbage. We're not going to certify any of this, but we're going to understand what it is. And then we're going to be able to see in the world around us. And if you've never looked into this kind of thing, your eyes are going to be open. You're going to see it everywhere. Walk into Barnes and Noble. You're going to see it. Go anywhere. Go to the movies. Turn on a video game. After you look at this stuff that we cover in this 3-part series, you're going to see it everywhere and understand that, hey, this permeates everything within our society.
It sure does, man. It sure does. And it's so important, in my personal opinion, to be well aware of your enemy's tactics and the things that they do to come against you, your family, and your own religious beliefs. Right here it says in Galatians 5:19, now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, and heresies.
All right, so let's run through this one more time.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about the fruit of the Spirit, which comes right after this in Galatians, but
Yes.
this is the fruit of the serpent.
Bars. Yes.
This is the fruit of the serpent here, guys. Adultery, fornication, uncleanness, say that for me one more time.
Lasciviousness.
Lasciviousness. Sorry, guys. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies. That's the fruit of the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to be doing tonight is going over these people that manifest these fruits of the serpent: envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like. I mean, when you go through all this right here, what is it like in the world today? Take a look around. Take a look around. What we need is these fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law, because if you're operating within this, you're within the law. If you're operating within the Spirit, you're automatically going to be operating within the law. A lot last week we talked about being the circumcision of the heart. And this is what that means, to be circumcised of the heart, is to be, putting off these character traits. That this is what should show. But if you look at your life and what's going on is violence and hatred and murders and drunkenness and revelings, if that's what's going on in your life, then you're showing fruit of the serpent. And we need to get back to these fruits of the Spirit. And we have to do it, like Michael Jackson says, starting with the man in the mirror. We all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and see what we're putting out there. If we're putting out the fruit of the Spirit or the fruit of the serpent.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
the only way to change the world, is each of us individually repenting and asking for the Holy Spirit to come live within us, asking for Jesus to come live within us, and to be showing these fruits of the Spirit. Each individual, adds to the collective. So the more of us are doing this and looking in the mirror, the better the whole world's going to be. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out before we moved on tonight.
No,
it's going to be
dude,
a lot of darkness, so let's get some light in here.
Yeah, absolutely right. Dude, you're so right too, man. That's what saved Nineveh in the time of Jonah, is everybody coming together and doing this. Not one, but all. Sackcloth and ashes and repentance towards the sky, my man. That is
Right.
the way. So here's a couple of examples of a few people. Both of them are coming from the book of Acts, and these people are attributed to being sorcerers. And so in Acts 13:8, it reads, but Elymas the sorcerer, for so is his name by interpretation, withstood them, seeking to turn away the deputy from the faith. And we're going to take a look at just what his name means real quick. It says, for so his name is by interpretation.
All right, let's check it out.
Let's do it, man. Elymas, your code is G1681. And his name means a wise man. He is the Arabic name of a Jewish magus or sorcerer.
Bar
Jesus. Yeah, man. And we see a couple of people getting in the way of the apostles when they're out here trying to do their thing. This guy in particular is something else here. In Acts 8:9, but there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one. This guy here is just, he was so interested in the ritualistic side of things. When he saw that the Holy Spirit was delivered by the putting on of hands, he asked them, can I have this power too? You give this to me too,
Right.
that it's a love for this stuff, man. And tonight's not the episode, but when I was a younger guy, I was also infatuated by the ritualistic things that come and are entailed and entangled in with some of this darker side of things. I've always found it fascinating. I don't think that's by nature, but I think it's by nurture, as I was raised in a generation with all the Disney movies and the cartoons and where they show you all these rituals and magic being taken
Yeah.
place, and it's painted with this romantic light and this fantastical music playing, and it's so special. And there's just this ambiance that comes along with it. And if you are someone who is like me, you fall for that trap, and it's something that just sort of calls to you in some type of way. And I think Simon may have been in the same type of way when he wants to give out that himself was some great one. Look at the type of power that I have.
Yeah, it's always the self-magnifying stuff. And when it comes down to, well, we're going to get into it plenty tonight. I'm not going to give too many breakdowns on this, but this is just more or less to show a couple biblical references. And there's more. We have more biblical references that's coming with part 2 and part 3. But this is what we wanted to talk about tonight, is a couple of the individuals, whether it's the, what was it, Elimus or, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Elimus, Jesus, whatever.
Elimus Bar Jesus, and then Simon the Sorcerer here, both within Acts. So we're wanting to show a couple of the individuals that were called out for this. And what we're going to do tonight is call out these individuals, each one by one, some of the larger names. And if we have time at the end, we'll cover some of the more obscure ones, kind of on a freestyle period. Sorry, Carlson, to letting you know now, guy. My bad. But we went really deep. But there's a certain timeline that seems to be in effect, and when you start pulling them all together, it seems like it goes from one person to another person to another person to another person, that kind of just is pushing the New Age religion, which is going to be Luciferian humanism. So let's go ahead and get into some of this, man.
Here we go, man.
Is that
all right, guys? Well, check this out.
In medieval European history, particularly in regards to a one-time Catholic priest named John Dee. Born in 1527, John Dee was an English alchemist, astrologer, court philosopher, and exceptional mathematician who entered Cambridge University when he was just 15 years old, where he excelled and became a junior faculty member before even taking his degree. After graduating, he went to Paris, where he delivered a series of well-received lectures on the Greek mathematician Euclid. After lecturing and studying on the European continent between 1547 and 1550, Dee returned to England, became astrologer to Queen Mary Tudor, and shortly thereafter was imprisoned for being a magician, but was released not too long after. Dee met the future Queen Elizabeth while she was being held under house arrest by Queen Mary. The two developed a friendship that lasted for the rest of their lives. As queen, Elizabeth gave Dee money. More importantly, she protected him from those who accused him of witchcraft. Besides practicing astrology and doing horoscopes in the court of Elizabeth I, whose favor he enjoyed, he also gave her lessons in the mystical interpretation of his writings. Dee's house in Mortlake near London was for many years a major center of science in England. Dee salvaged many rare and ancient scientific writings that had been scattered when Roman Catholic churches and monasteries were ransacked during the Reformation, and his own library of more than 4,000 books may have been the largest of its kind in Europe at the time. To give you a feel for Dee's own work, I'll read you a short sentence from the hieroglyphic monad, and I quote, "Before we raise our eyes to heaven, Kabbalistically illuminated by the contemplation of these mysteries, we could perceive very exactly the constitution of our monad as it is shown to us not only in the light, but also in life and nature, for it discloses explicitly by its inner movement the most secret mysteries of this physical analysis."
And that clip right there leads us into our first founder of modern witchcraft, and that's going to be John Dee.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with James Bond, but he used to sign his letters. He was the spy master for the Queen of England, and he used to sign his letters as 007, and that's where that came from. So let's check out here a little bit about John Dee. I know you highlighted a passage earlier, but it doesn't look like anything we did say. So
I know, it's so annoying, man, but that's okay.
It's fun, man. We took like three hours earlier today and made sure everything was right in line, but it's all right, man.
It is all good, man. So one thing that's so interesting about this is the amount of intellect and education most of these people seem to have together. You'll see that pattern amongst all the people we're going to be covering tonight. Most of them have been a part of as many clubs and schools and lodges that you can name. Dee's first attempts with several scryers were unsatisfactory, but in 1582 he met a man named Edward Kelly, then calling himself Edward Talbot, who impressed him greatly with his abilities. Dee took Kelly into his services and began to devote all energies to supernatural pursuits. These spiritual conferences or actions were conducted with intense Christian piety, always after
Hey,
periods.
brother,
Mhm.
can we zoom in just a little bit?
Yeah, be happy to. How about that right there?
There we go. Yeah, sorry, it was super small.
Got you. They were conducted with intense Christian piety, always after periods of purification, prayer, and fasting. Dee was convinced of the benefits they could bring to mankind. The character of Kelly is harder to assess. Some conclude that he acted out with cynicism, but delusion or self-deception cannot be ruled out. Kelly's output is remarkable for its volume, intricacy, and vividness. Dee records in his journals that angels dictated several books to him this way, through Kelly, some in a special angelic or Enochian language.
This mirror was used by John Dee to contact angels. For 10 years, John Dee and his scryer, Edward Kelly, received messages through the mirror. Dee believed the messengers were angels, Kelly thought they were demons, and begged to end the rituals. In the 15th century, there was little difference between science and the occult. Astronomy went hand in hand with astrology, and chemistry was synonymous with alchemy. It was an exciting time, when conjuring demonic forces seemed as possible as long division. John Dee was a 15th century polyglot, who, after a career of furthering academic thought and even advising Queen Elizabeth I, turned to the heavens and beyond, in search of older wisdom. With the assistance of his scryer, named Edward Kelly, John Dee created a holy table anchored by hermetic sigils, upon which this mirror acted as a portal to commune with other worlds. But John Dee was not the first person to use this mirror to speak with the other side. The mirror itself was made by the Aztecs of South America, in order to communicate with a god called Tezcatlipoca, the harbinger of discord. The mirror's wooden case is covered in tooled leather. Sometime in the 17th century, art historian Horace Walpole added a handwritten quote from Samuel Butler's poem, Hudibras. Kelly did all his feats upon the devil's looking glass, a stone, where playing with him at Bo Peep, he solved all problems near so deep. This mirror was used by John Dee to contact angels. For 10 years, John Dee and his scryer, Edward Kelly, received messages through the mirror. Dee believed the messengers were angels, Kelly thought they were demons, and begged to end the rituals.
All right, well, let's take a look at what was being given to them, that Enochian language.
Yeah. So he's contacting spirits through this black mirror, the looking glass, if you will.
Right.
And he records in his journals that angels dictated several books to him this way, some in a special or angelic language, what he would call the Enochian language. That's what you're looking for, right?
Let's go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah. Here we go. Enochian is an occult constructed language said by its originators to have been received from angels, recorded in the private journals of John Dee and his colleague Edward Kelly in the late 16th century England. Kelly was a scryer who worked with Dee in his magical investigations, and the language is integral to the practice of Enochian magic. This is what is some type of sample over here, I imagine.
Yeah, and anybody that may be a little bit older, can we zoom in on those letters?
I would do my best.
Anybody that's a little bit older, does that look like Led Zeppelin writing to you, like the Zoso and all that type of stuff? Yeah, if you're a little bit older, guys, you probably know what I'm talking about. Look at those symbols.
No, I'm not sure what you're talking about. What is that just like something that was on like their album cover or something?
Yeah, you'd have to know it to understand what you're looking at. Yeah, but yeah,
Okay.
it's like well, Jimmy Page for Led Zeppelin was all into this stuff, man. Far
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Now as we go back to the John Dee's Wikipedia, they have these black mirrors, and a lot of people say that these phones that we have are black mirrors unto themselves.
Right.
Um, and from what I understand, he may not have been the first person to use it. Like it said, it came from the Aztecs, and they used it to talk to Quetzalcoatl. Or I think the AI that was in that video got a little mixed up at that part, but I think that's what he was trying to say. And what's crazy is they thought that they were, at least John Dee believed that they were, Christian piety and using that type of stuff to do this, but that's not how God operates. You can pray and fast and all that, but when you start using these other incantations and communicating with the spirit realm like this, it's not that's not how God does things.
This is the lie that is always told and taught. It was my stumbling block, and I can tell you many other people I've met in my life has been their stumbling block, is that they look at the modern day church, and with all due respect, they see an entity that has
It's
no power.
powerless. It's powerless. It's
Mhm.
powerless, and it's taken all, and the church denominations have taken all of the supernaturalness out of the Bible. They
Mhm.
they talk about, sometimes they talk about love and charity and all that, and faith and hope and charity, which is all great. That's great. But when you're living in a world that's so, inundated with witchcraft and sorcery and, you know, mediums and tarot cards and fortune tellers. And speaking of fortune tellers, I believe that John Dee was one of the originators, if not the originator, of the crystal ball as
Mm.
well. Now, you know, when the churches take all of the power out of everything and they don't teach spiritual warfare within the church. I know that from growing up. I never, I heard about it. They would, give it lip service, but they would never talk about how to do it or teach you anything about this.
Yes, it's very true, man. And so you see and hear about all these other mystical things where people are claiming to have some type of power, and myself and many other included try to take that stuff, put a cross on it, and paint it up with some Christian makeup,
Yeah,
and
that's
we
well,
end up.
they do that. And nowadays you have, there's tons of books out there talking about Christian witchcraft and all this type of stuff. I promise you, you saw in the verses earlier what the fruit of the serpent. One of them was witchcraft. You're not going to have the a fruit of the serpent and the fruit of the spirit coincide with each other. That's not what's going to happen. You never mix the profane with the holy, or the
Amen.
holy with the profane. That's that's not Christianity. That's just a doctrine of devils with a pretty bow on it.
Amen.
Uh, all right, man. What do we got next? I know we got some images for John Dee. Do we have any more clips for him?
No, no more images, or excuse me, no more clips, but we do have some images for Mr. John D. And some of these are kind of cool, man. If you want to break this down, go for it. But it says here that John D is a fascinating character. 007 is a reference to the biblical Tubal Cain, the instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, or Tubal Cain, another Freemason symbol.
So if you look at that picture there, you see a cane with two balls on it. So two ball cane. And in
Mhm.
the Bible, it said, the artificer, he was the supposedly the first to really master brass and metalworking and blacksmithing. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting to show. But yeah, that's what that 007 is said to represent.
Yes, and I believe this is also John D here that says that Shakespeare was contemporary of John D. Shakespeare is credited with the creation of over 1,700 English words. John D was famous for his use of the Enochian language and divine rituals. Were any of the words that Shakespeare created inspired by D's Enochian invocations? You gotta wonder. I don't know. Today's not the episode to go into the spelling bee at 9/11 and all that stuff too, but like, my goodness gracious.
You never know. I don't think most people don't believe Shakespeare actually wrote his works.
Yeah, yeah.
I've always heard Sir Francis Bacon, but to know that he was a contemporary of John Dee, that would explain a lot.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, he hung out with the Queen quite a bit. Shakespeare did, even at a younger age. I know there's a lot of what's the word? There's a thin line between the fact and fiction with Shakespeare in his earlier years. But
Yeah.
again, I highly recommend anybody and everybody leave some type of comment below and engage into this video so that we can push that algorithm and we can all learn together more about this stuff, because these guys are experts in telling lies. And the fact that we have any knowledge about them at all is due to the hard work of people who are doing their very best to get this information out here. As we go into some of these other people down the road, you will see that some of them were reprimanded for putting certain information in their books by their own contemporaries. This reads, this is hands down the best book on Dr. D in the history of the Western esoteric tradition. Lays out an amazing account of John D and Edward Kelly's life. Recommend to anyone interested in this apocalyptic prophecies and the Enochian system of magic. Take note on how magic is spelled there. John D and the Empire of Angels. The occult roots and the modern world. These guys write books and get them published like nobody's business, man. It's really, really wild, actually. All right, this one reads, John Dee was an English mathematician, astrologer, teacher, occultist, and alchemist. That's like 7 lifelongs worth of study, by the way. He was the he was the court astronomer for and advisor to Elizabeth I and spent much of his time on alchemy, divination, and hermetic philosophy.
And just so we give credit, the first clip that we showed was by Robert Suffer. This post is as well. Just so we give credit on that, because he does a lot of good work. He's not a Christian. He's more of a New Age guy, believes in the Vril and all that type of stuff. But he does do a lot of good research. So I'd recommend if you want to see research, and you won't agree with all of it. I know I don't. But it's good. It's good research. He's an anthropologist. So it's good to go check out knowledge, but, not so much the spiritual knowledge. You know what I mean?
Right. Back out on all these images.
All right,
here.
now we've seen Edward Kelly mentioned a whole bunch. So can we check out, what we have on Edward Kelly?
Yeah, man. We did have this image here. That's my fault. I forgot to put this up. That's his little.
Oh yeah,
here.
There you go.
There's
the obsidian mirror, the black mirror, and then you also have that seal of God over there on the right hand side that we were showing earlier. That actually may be a better picture.
Yeah, man, it's like a giant demonic.
Just so we're clear, you talked about Christian piety. This is not how you get in contact with God. This is not how it's done.
No.
I guarantee if you're using stuff like this and you're getting contacted by somebody that tells you they're an angel, they may be an angel, but they may not be the type of angel you want to be in contact with.
That's the truth, man. You don't want to be messing around.
It's probably just the Nephilim spirits, to be honest with you. That's what I believe is behind a lot of this magic, is the spirits of the Nephilim that roam the earth.
Okay, so you wouldn't give it to the Rephaim, you'd give it to the Nephilim?
Maybe both. Maybe both.
Curious. All right, very cool. All right, here we go. This is a picture that we actually got to see in that clip. He shows you a little bit of it. If you pay very close attention to this picture here, all you'll see is Mr. D. He's in some type of court or room with the Queen, and he's performing what I could only call some type of alchemical experiment or whatever. As we come,
kind of a ritual, yeah.
Yes.
Now, zoom in on this picture here. Now, it's been painted over to hide this, but surrounding John D. in this picture, he's surrounded by skulls, and they painted over it to kind of try and hide it and cover it up over the years. But it's definitely there. The original painting had skulls there surrounding where he was performing this ritual.
Yes, and that's not conspiracy. That was done through X-ray technology. Right here we can read, X-ray imaging of the stately Victorian artwork has revealed that D was originally surrounded by human skulls before the ghoulish image. And that is something that is just inseparable from this magic stuff, man. In the beginning, it just seems like rocks and crystals, frequencies and energies, and it's not long before you get into other things, and it's just bananas.
Yeah, you always hit a point to where you need something else, and that something else is usually a sacrifice or something with blood or some kind of sick and twisted sexual perversion.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's usually blood.
Yeah. It's horrible, to be honest with you. So Mr. D had an associate, very a little too close to him, Sir Edward Kelly, also known as Edward Talbot. This is again around August of 1555, is when he was born, supposedly 1597. Was an English Renaissance occultist and scryer. Now, I actually want to go ahead and just look at that real quick. This is referred to as a seeing or peeping. It is a practice rooted in divination and fortune telling. In case you're unfamiliar with that word, scryer, he is known for working with John Dee in his magical investigations. Besides the professed ability to see spirits or angels in a show stone or mirror, I'm thinking something maybe like a crystal ball there too, which John Dee so valued, Kelly also said that he possessed the secret of transmuting base metals into gold, the goal of alchemy, as well as the philosopher's stone itself. We're going to read in an excerpt from one of John Dee's diaries where he claims that Mr. Kelly actually did such a thing. Legends began to surround Kelly shortly after his death. His flamboyant biography, his relationships with Queen Elizabeth I's Royal Majesty Sir John Dee, and Emperor Rudolph II, and his repute of having great alchemical skill and the ability to communicate with angels have all led to his relative notoriety among historians. Now, this here is that exact recollection of what Mr. D claims he saw Kelly do. And I'm reading from this section right here that I've currently highlighted on the screen.
Where is this from? Is this from Britannica?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to go and zoom in on that in case.
Just so you know, guys, we're pulling this information from. We're not even going into like grimoires or anything like that. And we could do that, but we try not to do stuff like that. We try not to put things on your screen that could be harmful for you or open up doorways for you. We are pulling things off of encyclopedia.com, the Encyclopedia Britannica, the History Museum of London. I mean, we're pulling things off of very mainstream things. This isn't something that's, you got to go too far to look for. This is all stuff that's common knowledge. So it's not like it's just some far out thing. If you don't believe in this, well, you may not, but everybody that's powerful in the world does. Whether it's kings and queens or emperors or the pharaoh in Egypt, they always have these magicians, soothsayers, fortune tellers, and supposed prophets around them, all throughout history. So you may not believe in it, but all the most powerful people on this earth do. So it may be something to pay attention to, because they always seem to find themselves around power. They're always financed by the most rich and powerful people on earth. So this is something to look into, guys. It's not hard to find, and it's there. So if you have doubts about it, I wouldn't doubt it too much, man. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's one thing I was surprised to find out, is how much money these guys were being paid through what I can only assume was probably taxpayer money. But as this reads, Kelly, the spirit medium or cunning ventriloquist, has gone down in the folklore. But in Europe, he became more celebrated in another branch of the occultist repertoire, alchemy. Dee believed Kelly to be an alchemical grandmaster. A climactic moment was reached in May 1588 when Edward Kelly did open the great secret to me. God be thanked. Okay, that's not my words, by the way. This is John Dee speaking here. Another devotee was the poet and diplomat Sir Edward Dyer, who labored much in chemistry under Kelly's tutelage and was present at one of his transmutations in Prague. I am eyewitness thereof, he later recalled, and if I had not seen it, I should not have believed it. I saw Master Kelly put of the base metal into the crucible, and after it was set a little upon the fire, and a very small quantity of the medicine put in, and stirred with a stick of wood, it came forth in great proportion perfect gold, to the touch, to the hammer, and to the test. Alchemy was the passion of the age, and nowhere more so than at the court of Emperor Rudolph II in Prague. That is just, I'm thinking Rumpelstiltskin, I'm thinking all sorts of stuff, man. To think that it's perfect.
I believe he was knighted for being able to do this.
He sure was knighted. And it's, I'm telling you, like what you said, these guys they're up there in the high echelon of society. Seems that
You see the Sir Edward Dyer, he's Sir because he was knighted as well, and he's underneath Kelly and calls him Master Kelly. So I mean, there's clearly a hierarchy here. You know what I mean? And he's a knighted lord, basically.
Right.
So, yeah, just to kind of show that it's insane. You know, and this is stuff that people really believed and still do to this day. Transmutation and all this other stuff.
Robert Sepper said, he said it was more common to conjure up demons than it was to do long division. that's hilarious.
Well, yeah, why find the answers for yourself when you can have them given to you, you know?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. These stories are, I mean, they're interesting to say the least. They're true. I mean, I, in my personal opinion, they're true. They're just so well documented, and everybody seems to be talking about it. And there's so much here to read on the guy that we could spend all day doing it. But
well, before we move on from Edward Kelly, let's talk a little bit about their end of their relationship between John Dee and Edward Kelly.
Yeah,
they were channeling a lot of messages as they went along, and they were told by one of these supposed angels that they were to basically wife swap.
Yes.
And after this, it completely destroyed their marriages, their relationship, their lives went way downhill after this happened. But it's just like, how could you think it's anything from God?
No.
You know what I mean? This is not, you know, to me, I feel like they put a lot of like Christianese within their writings, just in case if they were ever discovered by a Inquisition or by a pious man or a you know, one of the reformers or anything like that, that they could show that they were just trying to, you know, get in touch with God and figure out how to do this, and they put all this Christianese in there to protect themselves. I really honestly don't think for 1 minute they believed that they were operating with that within the kingdom of God. I don't believe that for 1 second.
No, there's just no way. God's not going to command you to do a wife swap thing. And the crazy thing is, too, is that it's in this article that it says that John Dee's wife just cried and cried and cried and begged him not to do it because Edward Kelly was, for lack of a better term, he was disgustingly ugly. He was, what's the word? I'll just stick with that. We're just going to say ugly. And she was not really looking forward to doing this thing. He was big for the time, and I don't know. I feel bad for the lady, but no, it has nothing whatsoever to do with Christianity. And I think you're exactly right. It's a safeguard, you know. Well, you can't judge me for my theology, you know.
Right.
I worship the same God as you do, you know. I call him God just like you, you know. It's
yeah, it's Christianese to cover up the real aims of what they're trying to do.
Yes. Here's that payment. We found how much he was getting paid. I'm not sure about inflation and whatever, but it seems like a lot of money. I don't know. But the angel that he spoke to identified itself as Uriel, and it spoke in a mixture of Latin and English. And so those are guys, man. We could spend forever talking about them. I found him particularly interesting amongst all the other ones that we'll be speaking of tonight. But our next character in the lineup is Mr. Eliphas Levi.
Eliphas Levi, born Alphonse Louis Constant in 1810, revolutionized the world of occultism with his profound works and mystical insights. Originally a Roman Catholic seminarian, Levy's quest for forbidden knowledge led him away from the priesthood and into the depths of esoteric traditions. His seminal works, Dogme et Rituel de la Haute Magie and Histoire de la Magie, became foundational texts in modern magic, blending mysticism, Kabbalah, and ceremonial rituals. Levi's enigmatic illustrations, particularly the iconic Baphomet, continue to influence occult symbolism today. His life's journey, marked by a relentless pursuit of hidden truths, solidified his legacy as the father of modern occultism.
Sounds like he attributed a lot.
Well, I would like to point out too that not only with Eliphas Levi, but also with John Dee and Edward Kelly, one of the things they mentioned was the Kabbalah. And when you get back to it, the basis for a lot of this stuff, if not all of it, is the Kabbalah. Coming out of ancient Babylon, mixed with, let's call it Jewish mysticism. But that comes out of Babylon, out of the Babylon captivity. and they brought this back with them, and these mystical rabbis and people that have followed after this. It seems like that's the basis for all of this occult knowledge, and then it branches off from there and builds out from there.
Mhm.
Now, when we were talking about John Dee and Edward Kelly, we talked about them using the black mirrors and the crystal balls and the Enochian languages. Now, with Eliphas Levi, it builds on it. And you're going to see as we go, each one of these people build on the teachings of these other people and just build this occult knowledge out and just kind of feel, and it just kind of fills itself out and grows and grows and grows from there. So we've got the crystal balls, the black mirrors, and the Enochian language. Now we have Eliphas Levi, and it talked about his drawing of Baphomet. And I'm sure if you like hard music, you like metal music, you've seen the Baphomet. If and once you see it, you start seeing it everywhere. We're not going to cover Baphomet by itself tonight. We'll get into it a little bit more on the third episode, maybe some of the second episode too. Definitely the third one. And Baphomet is actually said to be like the god of the Knights Templar. Going back to then too. But Eliphas Levi did the drawing that everybody knows today as Baphomet. He was the inventor of a few things as we go along here. I'll let you go ahead and read your section here, but just keep in mind that each one of these guys builds on another one, and then as time goes on, everybody draws from all of these guys and fills out this occult knowledge.
Absolutely. It's like a Plato, Socrates, Aristotle type of thing. And you
Right.
could see, there's some particular subjects that some of them think, oh, well, I don't think this guy was 100% right on this, or I disagree. For instance, right here, Mr. Levi writes, I ceased being a Freemason at once because the Freemasons, excommunicated by the Pope, did not believe in tolerating Catholicism. And the essence of Freemasonry is the tolerance of all beliefs. Now, that being said, this man is saying, if you're not going to tolerate all beliefs, I have nothing to do with you. He's not saying I have nothing to do with Freemasonry. You get what I'm trying to say here. It's the tolerance of all beliefs that he much care for. And that's, enough said on that. But the thesis of magic propagated by Eliphas Levi was of significant renown, especially after his death. That spiritualism was popular on both sides of the Atlantic from the 1850s contributed to this success. However, Levi diverged from spiritualism and criticized it because he believed only mental images and astral forces persisted after an individual died, which could be freely manipulated by skilled magicians, unlike the autonomous spirits that spiritualism posited. In regard to the purported supernatural occurrences reported by the practitioners of spiritualism, Levi was obviously credulous. He explained the phenomena which quite recently had perturbed America and Europe. Those of table-turning and fluidic manifestations are simply magnetic currents at the beginning of their formation, appeals on the part of nature inviting us, for the good of humanity, to reconstitute great sympathetic and religious chains. His magical teachings were free from obvious fanaticisms, even if they remained rather obscure, and he had nothing to sell, notwithstanding his publications. He did profess himself to be a poor and obscure scholar who has found the lever of Archimedes, and he offers it to you for the good of humanity alone, asking nothing whatsoever in exchange. I'm just such a great guy. I don't want anything. I just want to give you just doctrine of devils. I'm just such a nice guy. He did not pretend to be the initiate of some ancient or fictitious secret society. He incorporated the tarot cards into his magical system, and as a result, the tarot has been an important part of the paraphernalia of Western magicians.
Now, hold on there. So he popularized the tarot cards here in the West as a part of the occult. So there you go. You're building on the knowledge in the Western realm of witchcraft.
Mm-hmm. This section of the reading is probably something that is of most importance. He had a deep impact on the magic of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and later on, ex-Golden Dawn member Aleister Crowley. So let me read that again without that middle part. He had deep impact on the magic of Aleister Crowley. He was also the first to declare that a pentagram, 5-pointed star with 1 point down and 2 points up, represents evil, while the pentagram with 1 point up and 2 points down represents good. Levi's ideas also influenced a Mrs. Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. So we're familiar with the pentagram, and sort of the narrative and the legend goes that when the 2 points are up, it represents like a cup, right? And you're able to fill that cup up with all the, let's just call it the seething energies of Lucifer, if you will. And then when it's turned over and the 1 point is up and the 2 points are down, the cup is now releasing all of that stored up energy out onto the world and into the people who are invoking said entity. So this guy, he's got a lot of stuff going on here, man. Symbolism that we carry on to this day. Acts of tarot cards we carry on to this day. Artistic depictions of demons that we would call the Baphomet, still super powerful and taking hold of society every single day. This guy is he's a big piece here, man.
Major influence of Aleister Crowley and Helena Blavatsky. I believe we have one more clip on him. Let's go ahead and play that clip, and then we're going to keep it rolling, guys, because as you can see, each one of these guys builds on each other.
Members of the Golden Dawn incorporated Levi's ideas into their rituals and teachings, contributing to the development of a system of Western magic that combined elements of Kabbalah, astrology, tarot, and other esoteric disciplines. Aleister Crowley, a key figure in the occult revival of the early 20th century, considered Eliphas Levi a significant influence on his own magical and philosophical system. Crowley believed himself to be the reincarnation of Levi, and he referred to Levi as his magical father. Crowley adopted and expanded upon many of Levi's ideas, including his concept of the true self, or true will, the body of light, and theories related to the astral plane.
All right, well, let's move on to the next then.
Cool. You want to start off with the clip or with some reading?
Let's start off with a clip.
Let's do it, man. I like the clips.
William de Soulis was a nobleman, a landowner, and a torturous mutilator who inherited the family estates around the 14th century. Hermitage castles served as his stronghold. According to the legend, de Soulis practiced dark sorcery there as he sought to strengthen his powers. It's said he made a Faustian deal with Robin Redcap, a type of notorious and bloodthirsty goblin from English and Scottish folklore. In exchange for magical abilities and increased dominion over his lands, Lord Soulis promised Robin Redcap the souls of his subjects, of which the goblin demanded a steady supply. Soulis happily agreed to fulfill his end of the bargain and was supposedly guaranteed protection from weapons. Records say Soulis died incarcerated at Dumbarton Castle, but the legend insists he was captured by the populace he once terrorized, wrapped in lead, and boiled alive inside the stone circle at Ninestane Rig.
We got William de Soulis.
This man was in a castle, man, conjuring up demons and stuff. He's like an old cartoon villain. This is just crazy.
Well, I mean, he was known for that. Don't think he's alone in that. There's a lot of these royal bloodlines that, and you can see, like we talked about, all around the levers of power are these magicians and soothsayers and just all kinds of practitioners of witchcraft and sorcery. Let's go ahead and learn a little bit about this guy.
Cool. So the first section we'll read from is highlighted on your screen, and it says, but first, the boring historical bit. Border lords at the time were always having to look closely at whether their interests were best served by siding with the English or the Scots. And it seems that in 1320, William de Soulis took part in an English-inspired plot to kill the Scottish king Robert the Bruce. It failed, and the participants were rounded up with de Soulis being imprisoned in the Dumbarton Castle, where he subsequently died. That is the boring part. Now, the second version is a little more entertaining and about twice a bit as scary. The second version takes a little longer to tell. According to the ballad, William de Soulis was a huge and physically powerful man. And when he became Lord of Hermitage in 1318, why am I thinking Beauty and the Beast? He rapidly demonstrated a deep vein of cruelty that quickly had him loathed by all who came into contact with him. Stories began to circulate that he practiced the black arts. Here we go, kidnapping local children and using their blood in dark rituals. And what an obscure thing to do. Kidnapping local children and using their blood in dark rituals at the Hermitage Castle. During these rituals, De Solis would summon up his familiar, Robin Redcap. Okay, a redcap, also known as a powrie or dunter, is a type of evil goblin, typically found in British folklore in ruined castles along the border between England and Scotland. Once summoned, they roam the area, killing travelers and residents in order to keep fresh the blood stains on the redcap's hat, because if these stains dry, the redcap dies. Redcaps are very quick despite their meat-bound boots and heavy pike they carry, and the only way to escape one is to quote a passage from the Bible, whereupon it loses a tooth. Robin Redcap was especially feared, and after being summoned, De Solis committed many evil deeds in the lands around Hermitage. So we'll take a little pause there.
Yeah. Well, you got to say his name like you're actually Scottish.
Yeah, Robin Redcap. I don't know.
Robin Redcap. Yeah.
That's my best attempt I got there, bro.
Sorry, it's horrible, guys. We know.
But that's something else, man. Now, there's some lore here that I can only do my best to speculate and play around with. Now, I know these guys love symbolism. They love symbolism. And so there must be something going on with the metal-bound boots, the heavy pike they carry, and something about losing a tooth when you quote a passage from the Bible at it.
It sounds very, very, very fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very fantastical. Now, this guy was one of the obscure, or a little more obscure guys that we wanted to pull up, because a lot of people have heard of John Dee, Eliphas Levi, Everett Kelly, Aleister Crowley. Those are the typical suspects, and that's what we're going to build a little bit more on. But we wanted to show you this guy here because it's not just those big names that you hear. There's a lot of this around. In fact, I think we've cut out probably 12 or 13 people.
Yeah, there were some that were around this time period that you don't have quite as much documentation on. Is all that is.
Not at all. We tried to focus mostly on stuff that we could show a lot of documentation on, but this is just to show you that it goes back to prehistory, in my opinion. These magical rituals. All right, let's go into the next, man.
Do you mind if I read this one section here? Because
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were done. My fault, sir.
Oh, you're cool, man. No, this section here is just really interesting to me.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it says, but William de Solis himself was equally capable of terrorizing his neighbors. One day in 1320, he kidnapped a young Armstrong woman and tried to return with her to the Hermitage Castle. Again, Beauty and the Beast here. When her father tried to stop him, de Solis killed him on the spot. However, by now, a crowd had gathered, and de Solis was on the verge of being lynched when Alexander Armstrong, the Laird of Mangerton, intervened, calming the crowd and advising de Solis to return to Hermitage without his captive. De Solis was far from grateful, instead developing a hatred for someone who, and his social inferior, had demonstrated the power to influence the crowd and save him. De Solis therefore invited Alexander to a banquet at Hermitage, and when he arrived, he stabbed him in the back. Complaints about de Solis's activities were frequently reaching the ears of King Robert the Bruce himself, and when he was told of this latest outrage, Bruce, in exasperation, cried, "Solis, Solis, go boil him in brew." Needing no further invitation, say no more, say less, King. The Locals overpowered de Solis using, this is what I found interesting, they overpowered de Solis using a specially forged chain to bind him. Ordinary ropes could not contain his supernatural powers, and they took him to the summit at the Nine-Stane Rig. It was believed that de Solis could not be killed by ordinary means. Now, granted, we read earlier that he was a large guy, and so maybe their rope was just weak. But anyway, so instead, he was boiled in molten lead in a cauldron, suspended above a large fire. When news reached the king that his words were being taken literally, he sent soldiers to Hermitage, but it was too late. I don't know about the whole boiled in lead thing or what the temperature that lead boils at, but
we've talked a lot about portals and wrapping yourself in lead, and not on this show. So don't let me get you confused being brought into private conversations. So that's interesting about the lead for sure.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to read that, 'cause I thought that was interesting. A specially forged chain. I wish we had the ingredients to that, but yeah, that's about all I wanted to read about Mr. De Solis. But this is in 1320, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
restate what Austin had already said. This is we're behind in the timeline here from what we had with John Dee and everybody. But
Yeah, we just wanted to show one guy that's a little bit obscure.
mm,
So
so
now back on the main timeline, guys. This is Helena Blavatsky, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of her, and you saw that she was influenced by Eliphas Levi. Like most of I'm not going to say most. I'm going to say every single one of these people after Eliphas Levi was inspired by him. Every single one of them. He's the father of modern occultism, as far as I'm concerned. He, John Dee, and Edward Kelly, their work they did together, combined with Eliphas Levi and the ancient Kabbalah. That's really the groundwork for all of this. It's
yeah,
the foundation for all these founders.
yes. All right, we'll go ahead and get into a quick clip for her real quick, just to break up all the speaking, and then we'll
All right,
take
sounds good now.
Helena Blavatsky was born on August 12, 1831, in the city of Yekaterinoslav, former Russian Empire and currently part of Ukraine, and she was a remarkable 19th century occultist, philosopher, and spiritual teacher. Blavatsky is most well known as the co-founder of the Theosophical Society, a movement that sought to promote spiritual exploration and universal brotherhood.
All right, nice little introduction. What you got, brother? Can you hear me okay?
I was on mute.
Let's we'll have to cut that one out, y'all.
Yeah,
all right,
no worries at all.
Let's go back and start wherever you want to start it, sir.
Yeah, so we were just I was just saying that this is the lady who brings about the term theosophy, and that it was coined by her and her works. And I wanted to read this section here that says Blavatsky was a controversial figure during her lifetime, championed by supporters as an enlightened sage and derided by a charlatan by critics. Her theosophical doctrines influenced the spread of Hindu and Buddhist ideas in the West, as well as the development of Western esoteric currents like Ariosophy, Anthroposophy, and a New Age movement. And that's why I wanted to read this, is because the New Age movement is really something that we see. I mean, it's spreading like wildfire right now in our age, and has been for many, many years, but she's just a big figure.
Yeah, I believe 2 major works, Isis Unveiled, and I'm trying to remember the other one. I'm going off the top of the head here, guys.
Something about keys, right? Something about keys.
Well, let's go down. We can see her work.
The Key to Theosophy. That's what it is.
Yeah, The Secret Doctrine is the one I was thinking of. The Secret Doctrine. Yeah. What is the full title? The Synthesis?
Right here.
Yeah.
The Secret Doctrine, the Synthesis of Science, Religion, and Philosophy.
Now, what organization today does that sound like? Any guesses from the audience?
The Secret Doctrine, the Synthesis of Science, Religion, and Philosophy.
I can think of 2 organizations that sounds like.
Man, when it comes to science and religion, my brain goes to the 3rd and the 4th letters of the alphabet, the CDC, and maybe a little bit of the NASA. What's your answer?
Well, NASA would be one of them. Yeah, for sure. I didn't really think of CDC. What main one I was thinking of was CERN.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Where you have, art, religion, science, and all this coming together, where you have the statue of Shiva outside, and they're, looking for the God particle, and then you have NASA with the Apollo missions, and everything's named after the pantheon of gods, and just the whole thing, man.
Yeah,
the whole thing. The merger of science and religion and philosophy. Now, to be honest with you, the further we go on, the more you study, you realize that most of science is just religion. Especially when you look back in the ancient days and what you could see on Sumerian tablets and everything. You have things like what's known as the solar system depicted, and there was no quote unquote scientific evidence for this at this time. It was actually a religion, and the more you look into this type of stuff, you realize that they built their science on what was already their religion, and a lot of this science, so called, was dictated by doing these type of rituals, like Edward Kelly and John Dee, that were getting this information. There, you can go back to the writings of the Greek philosophers. You can see they were getting information from the daemon. Of science and religion are hand in hand, as much as modern day scientists would deny that. But all the foundations that they used and all the philosophers they used and all these people that got this knowledge, a lot of this knowledge was dictated to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look at it. Everybody we've
It's
studied.
self-admittedly, this isn't Thus Think Is Awesome. This is me reading their writings and telling you this was dictated to them.
Yes. Yes. Every one of them that we've read so far have been interested in things like alchemy, which would be chemistry on today's standards, is what we call it. And they've been into astrology, right? Or even astronomy and all the other branches thereof that you could link with those type of subjects together. It's science, man. And we see this sadly.
Science, bro.
It's just, it's science, bro. Shout out B.O.B., man. I forgot about that. But yeah, so you can actually sadly see this amongst Christians. Again, this was a stumbling block for me around age 14, where I was taking home, honestly, I was taking home my biology textbooks and my chemistry textbooks, and I was reading them like you wouldn't believe, to be honest with you. Had never really opened up a Bible before, but I was reading these textbooks like crazy, trying to find God in the textbook. And that's not an exaggeration at all. I was trying to find anything I could to support a Christian belief inside of these textbooks instead of going to the Bible first. And this was
let me point this out to you. We can do this another day. We could look at the history of education and the UN and Annie Besant and all these different type of people. But a lot of the people that formed, the educational doctrines, let's just say, and Common Core math and all this type of stuff, are all practitioners of this and come out of Theosophy and come out of the OTO and the Golden Dawn and the Lucis Trust, which was originally Lucifer Publishing. And it's scary stuff to see who decides what your kids learn and how they learn it. And we'll get into that later, but this is the foundation for all of that type of stuff. Let's see if we have anything else on Blavatsky down here.
Sure. And she moves around to a lot of places. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this one, but her and another gentleman are one of the first people to have moved into India and had formally converted to Buddhism during their life. But one thing you see common amongst all these people.
Well, I can tell you something that she wrote that would explain some of that. It wasn't any kind of Buddhism either. It was Tibetan Buddhism, which I believe it was her that said this, if not her, Manly P. Hall, but I'm about 95% it was Helena Blavatsky that said that the ancient Aryan religion, like the Scythians and all that type of stuff that comes out of that, and a lot of people believe the Aryans come from Atlantis, okay? This isn't my belief. It's a possible belief, but it's not my belief. This is just their belief system, is that the closest thing to the ancient Aryan religion is Tibetan Buddhism. So it's not just like your run-of-the-mill Buddhism or Hinduism. It's a specific brand of it.
Wow.
It talks about the elementals there.
Oh, they're all over the place, man. However, she also stated that the entities being contacted by spiritualist mediums were not the spirits of the dead, as the spiritualist movements typically allege, but instead either mischievous elementals or the shells left behind by the deceased. And that is a very interesting concept.
And these elementals, shells left behind by the deceased, that's that Nephilim I was telling you about. The elementals are mentioned in the Bible. They're called stoichion, like the weak and beggarly elements. So this is something that's biblical as well, guys.
Yes.
And it's something that in Paul's time in Jesus' time was being worshipped. I believe in Galatia, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think this was in Galatians where he talks about the weak and beggarly spirits.
Yeah, that's stoichion there. That's the elements.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this She is, I mean, honestly, bro, you can almost kind of see in the picture that this is not your normal human. She has a certain ghostly, intelligent type of aura that comes around her that when looking at her, you know who she kind of reminds me of is the mom from The Waterboy, so she kind of looks like, but at the same time,
He
she's
does. Pull
does this
that up, sir. Pull that up.
the mom from Waterboy?
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay,
Fuck it,
okay, okay,
man.
okay.
It looks Mom from the Water Boy. Let's do it. We're already here.
All right. Why not? I've
She
always thought
does. I've always tried to place it. Who does she look like?
I've always felt like that, and I've just never said anything. But because Connor's never seen this movie. There she is. Yeah,
Oh, it does. What is her name? I can't remember now.
I
Put
can't
it in the
remember.
comments if you know her name. My God, it looks like her.
Is it Kathy Bates? Yeah.
Kathy Bates. I believe that is it. Yeah.
I've always felt like she looks so much like her, and but in her picture she has this odd vibe to her that I just don't know what else to call other than
Demonized.
demonized, but also alluring. It's not a fear type of look. It's just like you can tell that this woman has had some type of, let's use a modern day term, a spiritual charge to her aura, if you will. You know what I mean? She just carries that with her. But yeah, this picture in particular is the one that I always look at, and I'm like, man, does that not
She
look like?
doesn't mind being of the devil, Bobby.
No, right? That was funny. That's hilarious. But that is
dude, it looks just like yeah, you nailed that on the head, boy. Oh my God.
that's
You know, they
hilarious.
say the eyes are the windows of the soul, man. All these people tend to have that same look, especially when you look at guys like Manly P. Hall, and we didn't include him. I thought about including him, but we didn't.
Yeah.
I believe we've probably referenced him enough in our videos, and we probably will reference the secret teachings of all ages quite a bit in some other deep videos. So I didn't think it was necessary to put him on here.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you want to cover on Blavatsky before we move on?
No,
I think we may have one more clip on her.
perhaps we do. Let's take a little look see. No, we don't. That's what we had for her. But she is honestly, we could do an entire episode just on her and the things that she's written and had to say.
Yeah. We could do an episode on the 7 root races, all the kinds of beliefs that they have, and we could compare the secret doctrine with the secret teachings of all ages with Manly P. Hall, and really get some ideas of what, let's just call it the dark side, what their philosophies are and what their belief system is.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and go on to somebody who was inspired by her, but wasn't a big fan of the Eastern mysticism that Theosophy pushed.
Yeah.
We have a clip for this next woman. Let's go ahead and play that for an introduction. Then I think we may have a second clip after we read some.
Dion Fortune, born Violet Mary Firth, was a prominent British occultist and author in the early 20th century. She founded the Fraternity of the Inner Light in 1924, a group dedicated to the study and practice of esoteric subjects. Fortune's work was deeply influenced by the teachings of the Western mystery tradition, blending elements of ceremonial magic, Kabbalah, and psychic development. Her writings, including The Mystical Kabbalah and numerous novels, have left a lasting impact on modern occultism. Fortune emphasized the importance of inner spiritual work and connectedness with higher realms, often using meditation and visualization techniques. Her legacy continues to inspire those seeking spiritual enlightenment and understanding of the mystical arts.
So this is our gal right here, man. Your modern day witches really like this one. And honestly, out of all the characters we're going to be speaking of tonight, she might be my favorite, simply because she had some guts. She was a hard worker. I mean, she went everywhere you could imagine, traveled like crazy, went to so many schools, changed her lodges, changed her beliefs, and ended up becoming a formidable force within this group of people.
Well, let's look right here. It says that she established her own outer court Golden Dawn Lodge called the Christian Mystic Lodge. There you go, the Christianese again, of the Theosophical Society.
Yes. Yes. Agreeing with Moriarty's conjecture that the Christian Gospels are, Lord forgive me, essentially allegories, Fortune also agreed with her mentor that Jesus Christ was a prophet of the same rank as Orpheus, Mithra, and Melchizedek, while remaining steadfastly resolute in her conviction that the Master Jesus was her spiritual guide. Her
So
affinity to
they take Jesus and knock him down from being God to being one of the ascended masters that Blavatsky speaks about so often.
Mhm. Her affinity to Blavatsky's teachings is reflected in her appropriating the term theosophical for her new group. Fortune published her first book, Machinery of the Mind, in 1922, under her birth name, which was Violet Firth. It was her subsequent works, however, that brought Fortune the fame and notoriety. And she, um,
Well, did you notice in that clip, and we'll talk about her works in just a minute,
Mhm.
but once again, Kabbalah is showing up.
Yeah.
There is no witchcraft or sorcery that does not have Kabbalah at its base.
Yes.
That is the baseline of that, and I think we're going to tackle that very heavily in part 3 of this.
Mhm.
But just keep this in mind for you guys who watch all 3 of these, and I'll put it in a playlist by itself, so it'd be easy to find. But yeah, so just keep an ear out for that Kabbalah that just keeps coming up, because it's the truth. It's the baseline for all of this.
Yes. In 1922, she and Charles Thomas Loveday, who served as both Fortune's patron and secretary, worked together to produce The Esoteric Philosophy of Love and Marriage. That's the title of a book, in case you're just listening and not reading along, which Fortune narrated from a psychic trance to Loveday, who then transcribed Fortune's narration. The book had repercussions, however. This is what I was talking about
So you're
earlier.
telling me she didn't come up with it, but channeled it, just like all of these guys seem to do?
Yep.
Isn't out of their own wisdom?
Yep. I know, and I will not say this person's name or how I know this person, but I know of a person in particular who claims the same thing and has also had some work published. It's very, very common, and these are the people. This lady in particular, and the last lady we looked at, are these people are their inspiration. Um, so the book had repercussions, however. When Mona Mathers became annoyed at what she perceived as Fortune's disclosure of Golden Dawn's secrets. She was not happy that she had taken some of the things she had learned from Golden Dawn, and she had already left her original lodge of Golden Dawn at this point. A lot of the younger people had been taken off, and some because of war and whatnot. Excuse me, had been taken off because of war, and she didn't want to be around a bunch of the old geezers. You know what I'm saying? So she left and went to another lodge. But they were upset with her for disclosing this information. In the book, Fortune discussed that human sexuality, here it comes, could be as mystical as well as a physical union, and that the sexual act could be used to generate otherworldly energies. If you're familiar with Karma Sutra and some of the other things, Mathers was infuriated further by articles that were eventually published in Fortune's books. The Cosmic Doctrine and Sane Occultism, the latter republished as What is Occultism? These are all names of books, again, in case you're just listening. In this work, here it comes, Fortune questioned why the occult sciences attracted charlatans rather than the world's leading intellectual thinkers. She also disparaged the sentimentality and unscientific nature of most published works on the occult and declared that most occult practitioners were inept. That's crazy, man. Like, she's coming in here in the game and calling some of the biggest people inept. She also offered recommendations on how to identify past lives, as well as discussions on numerology, astrology, yoga, and I guess vegetarianism. She also staunchly opposed drug use, homosexuality, promiscuity in general, and premarital and extramarital sex. So,
So it seems like that she was a practitioner of what's called the right hand path. What
mhm,
some would call like a white witch today. She was one of the originators of being a Christian witch. That's
yeah,
an oxymoron in case you guys don't understand that. There is no such thing as being a Christian witch. Witchcraft in any kind of shape or form is prohibited explicitly in the Bible in numerous passages. So the foundation for Christian belief should and has always been the Bible, and it should always be the Bible. So if that is the case, then nothing after you say Christian witch has anything to do with Christianity in my eyes. It's just putting a veneer on something, putting it on the left-hand path. So you would have like Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan, which would be on the left-hand path. Anybody practicing supposed dark magic is on the left-hand path, and the light magic, and the who's the goofy, the Wiccans, like the left-hand path, like almost like nature magic, and everything's love and light and all this type of stuff. But no, it's just Satan masquerades himself as an angel of light. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is. You have basically on the right-hand path, you have Luciferianism, chasing after the so-called light, the false light. And then on the left-hand path, you have the dark magic and the blood magic and all that type of stuff. And that would be like the Satanism left-hand path. So you have right-hand path, left-hand path. And what are we called to do, Bronson?
Walk the straight and narrow.
Straight and narrow. Right. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys, and I'm going to keep going back to it tonight. That's basically the two paths of the occult knowledge, is the left-hand path and the right-hand path. And one's not better than the other.
No. I'm glad you brought it up, though, because we can see some strong characteristics here. And let's just take a look on that.
Yeah.
She was wanting people to take a look into, as the short said, into meditation, right? That's a big deal. We're talking about numerology and astrology. That's pretty common on both sides. Yoga, sexual magic. Now, there is a difference, okay? You have a darker side of sexual magic and a lighter side of sexual magic. Again, I'm glad you put out that child warning in the beginning. But one is the blending of certain energies, where the two who are, or in some cases it's multiples. We're going to stick to two here.
A lot of cases.
There you go. Yeah, they're going to stick just to two. And they are trying to blend the energies, synonymous heartbeats, staring into the eyes and things of that nature, and trying to have these special spiritual type of moments here.
On the right-hand light, supposed fake light path. Now, there's some stuff, and there's no kids in the room, right, guys? I did give you the warning. Okay, so if there's kids in the room, it's not all Austin on this one, all right? There is other things like rituals, like cutting yourself with razor blades, and then while having sexual intercourse, bleeding into each other, and some other things that go pretty dark from there. And that's dark enough, and that's as far as I'm going to go. But there's a lot of this sexual magic and tantric sex magic and all kinds of stuff, and it's still all just witchcraft.
Yes,
it's all just witchcraft.
Yes. But
go ahead with what you're saying, sir. My fault.
You're straight, dude. This is essentially just New Age 101, man. You're meditating. You're going to be putting your body into certain positions, either by yourself or with others, to kind of maneuver the blood and create certain energies and frequencies. It's the same old thing that Kabbalah would teach you. I know we're not getting into it today, but it's all just the spiraling energies of the serpent that coils up the spine to reach into the tip of the forehead to enlighten the brain and the spirit and the soul. It's once you see it, it's real easy to read through for lack of a better term, the BS. You know what I'm saying? You know what they're doing here. But this one, I was interested in this girl. Not gonna lie to you, because she called some of the other ones inept. I mean, she took it to the next level to say it's not enough to just make claims of being a part of some type of order or some type of school, but we need to go ahead and have some scientific basis and backing behind these things. And since her death, we've come a very, very long way into working with her. Her style of beliefs, and you see it all over the world today. Here's a second clip for her.
Dion Fortune was an occultist, mystic, and the author of a number of acclaimed works, and whose real name was Violet Mary Firth. Fortune, who died in 1946 at the age of 55, was someone who was skilled at creating monsters in the mind and who then unleashed them into the world around her. Fortune made it very clear, however, that creating a mind monster rarely has a positive outcome. It is something that each and every one of us should take careful heed of. Her story is as fascinating as it is disturbing. Quote, The artificial elemental is constructed by forming a clear-cut image in the imagination of the creature it is intended to create, ensouling it with something of the corresponding aspect of one's own being, and then invoking into it the appropriate natural force. This method can be used for good as well as evil, and quote-unquote guardian angels are formed in this way. It is said that dying women, anxious concerning the welfare of their children, frequently form them unconsciously.
That's every level of creepy, to be honest with you. That's just so creepy.
It's what they believe.
Yeah.
It's what all the people that are close to the levers of power and control the levers of power believe. So whether it sounds far-fetched to create monsters in your mind and unleash them, or whatever she wants to say, and taking part of your soul and energizing these things, and it's scary stuff. It's scary stuff.
Yeah. When you take today's modern movement of manifesting, this is when you boil it down in a pot and pan, this is what you get, man.
Now we talked about Kathy Bates a little bit, but tell me she doesn't look like Bill Clinton.
She does look like Bill Clinton, bro. And the cheeks and the jaw. He does look like Bill Clinton with a wig on. That's hilarious.
All right, let's go on to our next founder of the six stuff and see what we got here. Who are we on now, sir?
This is a Mr. Aleister Crowley.
Dubbed the wickedest man in the world by the press, Aleister Crowley did very little to defend himself against this accusation. So much so that when asked his name, he would reply with either 666 or the Beast. Frequently referred to as a traitor, a drug fiend, and a man in league with the devil, Crowley claimed to be able to use demons to do his magical bidding. Although he was undoubtedly a questionable human being, he once tortured a cat to death to prove to his mother that they did not have 9 lives. Many of the reasons for which he was lambasted by the press would turn out to be unfair. Firstly, he was labeled a sexual deviant, mainly because he was openly bisexual. Although he was labeled a traitor for moving to America during the First World War and writing pro-German propaganda, declassified documents have since proven his story that he was in fact under the employment of the UK government. That being said, his behavior unsettled people. He would often express a wish for people's death, only for them to die of natural causes shortly afterward. This led many people to believe that he was the real deal.
I'm glad he covered some of that because unfairly so, and honestly I think it's to attack or to discredit folks like you and me. There have been some odd things said about this guy that when, let's just say, some non-believers or whatever watching this video, they go double check us on some of this. So, oh, this is just a baseless conspiracy theory. And if you look into this, Aleister Crowley was just a wackadoo. Most witches don't even like him. And most pagans and people I've ever met in my life, when I bring up Crowley, they're like, well, no, we don't claim him. We don't know. He's not one of us. And they all claim that type of stuff. But again, put it in a pot and boil it down. This is what you're going to get, man. It's this guy here. So let's go ahead.
I mean, they can say that all they want, but when you look at some of the people we talk about later and their writings to him and how high of esteem they held him in, and the amount of like honorary Masonic regalia he had, the different orders he was in, whether it was the Golden Dawn, the OTO, or his own religion, Thelema, and the amount of people that we're going to cover in episode 2 when we're talking about entertainment and sports and music and all that type of stuff, the amount of people that follow that religion or have followed that religion and incorporate Crowley into a lot of the stuff they do. Yeah, dude, you're not going to convince me of that. I'm sorry.
No.
Maybe in whatever new age spirituality or love and light and good vibrations, bro, you're following. Sorry, man. The people that lay the groundwork for your beliefs all take from this guy and all follow his magical rituals. I'm sorry, but it's just how it goes. And Crowley, just like we saw in these original videos, built upon John Dee and Edward Kelly and The Life is Levi and Helena Blavatsky, and built upon all of this type of stuff to create his magical system, which is Thelema that you see there, the Abbey of Thelema.
Yeah.
Let's start at the top, man, and let's just read the little introduction just so we're not jumping into all the deeper stuff with him.
Yeah, for sure. So Edward Alexander Crowley was born on the 12th of October in 1875. He died in 1947. This was an English
That
occult.
wasn't that long ago, guys. Just so you know, I know all these pictures look old, but this is under 100 years ago.
Yeah, no, man, it's World War II time. He
Right.
was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, philosopher, political theorist, novelist, mountaineer, and painter. Of course he was. He founded the religion of Thelema, identifying himself as the prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the Aeon of Horus. That's important. In the early 20th century. A prolific writer, and he published widely over the course of his life. This man wrote so many books, and some of his beliefs changed throughout his life. I mean, as most
Could it be, since he wrote so many of those books, maybe he wasn't writing these books and was dictating these books, or was
right,
having somebody dictate the books to him, and he was just saying it out loud, and somebody was transcribing it? Because if that's the case, which I believe it was, that seems to be par for the course for all these guys. They have lots and lots and lots of works, almost so many you wouldn't think they could do it in a lifetime. On top of doing all of the, you know, they had to have everything written down and then published at a
right.
print press. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just slamming all of this content out. Like, no, man, this stuff was dictated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is there was no Chat
Let me
GPT.
just make this clear: dictated by spiritual entities.
Yeah, yeah. There was no Chat GPT. There was no backspace button on the typewriter, by the way. You know what I'm saying? This is it's just crazy. And plus he had to have time to go mountaineering and painting. I mean, my goodness. But this guy gets his information from a guy named Iwas or whatever. There we go. This is Crowley wrote down the Book of the Law, a sacred text that serves as the basis for Thelema, which he said had been dictated by a supernatural entity named Iwas, announcing the start of the Aeon of Horus. Here it goes. This Aeon of Horus here. The book declared that its followers should do what thou wilt, and that should align themselves with the true will through the practice of ceremonial magic. We'll read that again. The book declared that its followers should do what thou wilt and seek to align themselves with their true will through the practice of ceremonial magic.
Now, guys, in a lot of our episodes, you'll hear me say something like, "Oh, these churches are teaching more Crowley instead of Christ. Do what thou wilt be the whole law." The law's done away with, guys. It's all done away with.
Nailed to the cross.
You don't have to follow those rules. You know what I mean? So that's
yeah.
This is what I'm referencing here. Do what thou wilt.
You see just how big this wiki page is. I mean, there's so much to say about the guy. Crowley gained widespread notoriety during his lifetime, being a drug user, bisexual, and individualist social critic. Crowley has remained a highly influential figure over Western esotericism and the counterculture of the 1960s, and continues to be considered a prophet in Thelema. And that whole drug user thing, I was reading some of his stuff many, many years ago, and he had written that marijuana was one of the many trees in the Garden of Eden and all this crazy stuff that he's
well, he did all of his work and did all this fantastical stuff and climbed mountains and painted and wrote all these books and came up with these these practices for magic and these different rituals, all while being a heroin addict.
Yep.
Come on, man.
It's just crazy. Now, this is actually a different signature than the one I've seen him use before. The ones I've seen him use before is not actually Aleister Crowley. He's written other things, but you're supposed to be able to see in his other signatures. This one, I'm not picking it up. There's supposed to be some sixes here, and I see one at the tail end of the A. That's obviously a 6. This would be a 6 here, of course, right? But anyway. I just thought that was interesting to point out. Now, I've never actually seen him sign his name as Aleister Crowley. There's always another name that he uses, whether it's the Beast or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, this guy is one that I say we can do an episode on. A lot of these guys, Aleister Crowley, you could do like 17 episodes on this guy, and It's just crazy here, man. It talks about doing the whole, thou shalt do what thou wilt, and it will be the whole of the law. And that's the Eon of Horus. And it wouldn't shock me if many people have taken hold of that doctrine and ran with it as far as they could. As you look out in today, that it's just live your best life. It's YOLO. It's love is love, man. And you know what I'm saying? It's all about do what's best for you. And if anybody disagrees with you, well, you just cut them off. They're just bad for you. They're bad energy, bad vibes, bro. Cut them off, and you just do what you want to do. And it's your journey, right? I mean, it's just every single, what's the word, buzzword that you can think of that you hear some deranged youth on TikTok say. I have a personal feeling, and I could be wrong on this, but I think I'm right. It all stems from this type of doctrine that do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Well, I think this is also a product of a certain doctrine. I will ascend to the mount of the congregation. I will. It's the magnifying of self, and what we're supposed to do is die to self and magnify the Most High God. That's what we're created for.
Right.
Now let's take a look at this depiction here of this big 5-headed individual on the side of the screen. This is Lamb. This is what a lot of people consider to be the first drawing of what they would consider a gray alien, one of the little grays. And this entity in particular came forward at a sexual a sex magic working that took place in Egypt. If I am not mistaken, it's called the Alamantra working.
Yeah, this is, if I'm not mistaken, there was some type of ritual that took place at his house that he did with another guy, and they opened up a portal, and these things started coming through, right? And they were flying around in some crazy type of technology.
No, that's later.
Oh, okay. All right.
They used the same magic that he used at this Alamantra working in their rituals later on that we're going to get to with, I think, either the next person or the one after that.
Okay, gotcha. All right, spoiler alert. So, but yeah, man. So he lived a life, man. And we've been scrolling about all the things that this guy has done and written and where he's been and where he traveled all around the place. It's just these guys travel like nobody's business, man. It's like, where do you find the time and the bread to do this type of stuff? But yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this guy here because there are some absolutely disgusting things, but I just kind of rolled through and you can read it.
Hold on, here we go again.
What's up?
He was steeped in esoteric teachings he had learned from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Let's see. Crowley also wrote in the fourth book of magic about a great pagan umbral fleet controlled by Audivus that would be handed down to the great Spartan. The esoteric nature of this was also unclear. Crowley's thought was not always cohesive, and it was influenced by a variety of sources, ranging from Eastern religious movements and practices like Hindu yoga and Buddhism, scientific naturalism, and various currents within Western esotericism. Among the ceremonial magic, alchemy, astrology, Rosicrucianism, Kabbalah, and Torah. There's that Kabbalah and Terra. There's that Kabbalah again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to get across to everybody. That is the basis for a lot of this stuff.
Yes. And it come right out of Babylon here. This is I'll read this section real quick before I say what I was about to say. He believed that this eon of Horus, Crowley believed that the 20th century marked humanity's entry to the Aeon of Horus, a new era in which humans would take increasing control of their destiny. God, does that not sound like 2024? He believed that this eon follows on from the Aeon of Osiris, in which paternalistic religions like Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism dominated the world, and that this in turn had followed the Aeon of Isis, which was maternalistic and dominated by goddess worship. He believed that Thelema was the proper religion of the Aeon of Horus, and he also deemed himself to be to be the new prophet of this new Aeon. And man, I mean, in so many ways he will. The moral code of do what thou wilt is believed by the Thelemites to be the religion's ethical law, although from a 17th century grimoire, the moral code of do what thou wilt is believed by Thelemites to be oh, I just reread the same line. Although the historian of religion Marco Passi noted that this was not anarchistic or libertarian in structure, as Crowley saw individuals as a part of a wider societal organism. But
yeah, well, there's a story that you weren't allowed to say I or me or anything like that around
yes,
Crowley, or you would be beaten or punished or shunned or something within Thelema. You could not say that it all had to be about the collective, and he was the ringleader. He was the only one that was allowed to have individual thought and direct how it was going. It had to be a we, like almost a hive mind conscience.
right. No individualism, yet it's do as thou wilt. It's I mean, dude, we're headed there. It's just crazy. Now, peep game, I said earlier in this video to take a look at the way that word magic is spelled. Now, he believed in the objective existence of magic, which he chose to spell as magic, which is an archaic spelling of the word. Now, this is one of my little arguments I like to use against the folks to practice this stuff, that this is a common spelling, okay? You check out your bumper stickers and Infinity's End and all that stuff where they use these words magic and they spell it like this, and then they have the gall to lie to you and tell you that, Crowley's not one of us, we don't take him. And it's like, well, he's the one that reinstated that version of the spelling of the word. He's the one that really popularized that spelling again, because it was not spelled like that for quite some time. And this dude had his reasons to do all these things. One of the crazy quotes from him is that if he's supposed to have so many titles and so many ranks in all the schools and dark mystery schools that he was in, if he wore all of his medals and badges and uniforms and everything that he had possessed throughout the years, it would be enough to weigh down an elephant to his knees. This dude, he really was the real deal, man. And it's more often than not you're told that, oh, he's just a crazy guy. But
well, I think we have another clip about him. If we want to go ahead and go to that, then we have something a little crazy about him you guys may have not seen before.
This is 100% true, and it's terrifying. This is Boleskine House. It overlooks Loch Ness in the north of Scotland. The house was built on the site of a 10th century church. One day, the church caught on fire during service. It trapped and killed everyone inside. The house that they built on the site was purchased in 1899 by this man, Aleister Crowley, the most prominent occultist of all time. So Crowley would use the house to practice black magic and supposedly open a portal to the underworld. Then Crowley admits that his experiments are getting out of control, especially when his housekeeper suffers the sudden death of all of his children. So Crowley up and leaves. And then Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page buys the house. He leaves it in the care of his friend Malcolm Dent. You can read about his experiences, but basically he just lives in constant terror. For that, the house is sold twice. Both times the owners die mysteriously. And then in 2015, the house spontaneously bursts into flames while no one is there.
she said that in 2019, while it was going under repairs, it caught on fire again. That's just crazy.
Aleister Crowley was a British occultist, writer, and magician who lived from 1875 to 1947. He gained notoriety for his involvement in various esoteric practices and his role in founding the religion of Thelema. Crowley authored numerous books on magic, astrology, and mysticism, including the Book of the Law, which became the foundational text for Thelema. He was known for pushing the boundaries of traditional occultism and embracing a philosophy centered around the principle of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, emphasizing individualism and personal freedom. Crowley's rituals and beliefs often revolved around spiritual enlightenment and self-discovery through esoteric practices. Throughout history, he has been a polarizing figure, with some viewing him as a visionary and others as a controversial and enigmatic character in the world of occultism and spirituality.
And here's just a couple little X clips that Austin has sent over.
Let's just read a little bit here.
Of course, the media has repeatedly made the effort to fact-check as untrue the claim that Barbara Bush is the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley's daughter. But I
Now,
believe
for you that may not live in the U.S. or maybe a little bit younger, Barbara Bush was the wife to former CIA director, vice president, and president George H.W. Bush, and the mother to another president, George W. Bush. Okay, so let's just think about the implications if this is true.
big deal. But I believe that's just an intentional, concerted effort by the fake news media to hide the truth. Turns out, it's quite true that her wealthy socialite mother, Pauline Pierce, was known for practicing the sex magic rituals with him to help him achieve the highest states of magical consciousness. And since we know she had sex with him, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he was, in fact, her father. By the way, given everything else that we've been learning on what's going on, would this really even surprise you if it was true? No, not really. Yeah, but check out some facial structures, check out the nose. It's you know, I see it.
Let's check out the other clip. Now, the writing above it, I believe, is in another language, but the clip speaks for itself.
Now they try to soften that. And I'm like, no, this is very scary because they kept getting caught having sexual rituals. One such story, by the way, and again, this stuff that I'm saying to you, you don't need to go on a deep Reddit feed. This is on Wikipedia. One such story is like Mussolini kicked him out of Italy because they were having one of their sex rituals. Like they believed the elites would get together and they would have sex rituals in order to like summon spirits. Like this was what his religion believed in. And he got kicked out by Mussolini because somebody actually died in one of these sexual rituals because they wanted to take their ecstasy to the next level. I mean, really bonkers stuff. And when he gets kicked out, he goes and stays at his friend's house in France. Who are his friends? Barbara Bush's parents.
That's 100% true. Now, whether Barbara Bush is the offspring of Aleister Crowley and Pauline Pierce, I don't know for sure. But if that is the case, that means he is George W.'s granddaddy.
The head of the CIA was George H. Bush. That's just, buddy. Two presidents. I mean, to call yourself the prophet of the Eon of Horus and then end up potentially, more than likely, having some lineage that becomes, presidents, that's pretty interesting there. Nothing else
And
to
if
say.
you take a picture of old Barbara Bush and put it next to a picture of old Aleister Crowley, it becomes very believable.
Yeah, the similarities are striking. Here is our next individual, and our man here, his name is Mr. Jack Parsons.
Now, if you need another example of science and religion and philosophy coming together, here's a perfect example.
Jack Parsons is the reason we go to space, bro. He has a dream. He says he was contacted by a being named Belial Dajjal, which is the same word Muslims use for Antichrist. Muslims and Christians believe towards the end of time, someone will come claiming to be Christ when the world is in chaos. Everyone's starving, civilization collapses, like all hell breaks loose. And then this human being appears that says, I am God. Worship me and I'm going to save you guys. Antichrist. The Muslim word for it is Dajjal. It's the same concept. This guy, who's not even Arab, says he sees a dream that the Antichrist came to him in the dream and said, you are very important for my work. I'm going to help you get to rockets up. And he taught him how to make what he created for rocketry.
Oh, buddy.
I think we have one more clip on him. Do we have another one, like an introductory clip?
Meet Jack Parsons, a man with a mysterious life. By day, he was a trailblazing rocket scientist, co-founding the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and developing innovative rocket fuels. His work was instrumental in the inception of NASA and the space age. However, when night fell, Parsons was drawn into the occult, aligning himself closely with cult leader Aleister Crowley and even aiding in establishing Scientology. He hosted unusual gatherings at his mansion, participated in hedonistic rituals, and led a lifestyle full of controversy. His story is a perplexing mix of genius and madness, proving that truth can indeed be more bizarre than fiction. This is just a glimpse of the enigmatic life of Jack Parsons. Check the comments for a link to our full video exploring his life.
Yeah. And,
Yeah. This is when you get into NASA, you realize it's all Nazis, occultists, and Freemasons. And,
yes, sir.
Almost everything, if not everything, they come out with directly opposes the Bible.
Mm-hmm. John Whitesides Parsons, born Marvel Whiteside Parsons. He and you share a birthday. 1914, June 17th, 1952. He was an American rocket engineer, chemist, and Thelemite occultist. There it is. Associated with the California Institute of Technology. Parsons was one of the principal founders of both the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, and the Aerojet Engineering Corporation. He invented the first rocket engine to use a castable composite rocket propellant. Excuse me. And pioneered the advancements of both liquid fuel and solid fuel rockets. Jeez Louise.
Where do you think you got that information from?
Took the question right out of my mouth. Does he think it maybe have been this Antichrist figure who he claimed was coming to him? And that's what's crazy is like these guys, they don't say, you know, man, I went to engineering school and I just fell in love with the numbers. I couldn't go to sleep at night. I was just crunching over these numbers and I just wanted to get into space so bad. Nobody says that. They all tell the truth here. It seems to be a part of sigil magic is that there's certain things they're just not allowed to lie about, and this seems to be one of them.
Or they at least have to show you.
Yeah.
Show you before something happens. That's where you get a lot of the predictive programming. It's a rule almost. Like in the Bible, it says that God doesn't do anything without revealing it to his prophets first.
Yes.
Well, it almost seems like Satan and the Dark Kingdom mirrors that rule. You've seen how many, Simpsons episodes, and before 9/11 there was all kinds of like predictive programming about it, and there's just they always have to show you like the black swan thing to tell you what they do before they do it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also I'd like to point out, all these people are highly intelligent people. The dark side doesn't come and give this knowledge to just any old Joe Blow. They brought this knowledge to people that would have some kind of capacity to understand it.
And connection.
Yeah. They don't just bring it to some illiterate guy in a gutter somewhere. It's always somebody that is brilliant or is talented or anything, and then the dark entities use that, their natural talents as a vehicle to string them along and use them as puppets for their will.
Absolutely. And I would take it even a little step further to say that they would probably choose people who are charismatic and have a touch of an ego to them, because there's some type of glory that comes with this as you become one of these, quote, ascended master type figures, if you will. I mean, you can get off on this, level of notoriety that you're going to get that look, the demons chose me. They didn't, you know what I'm saying? They didn't choose you. I'm the chosen one, as you see in every single dark natured cartoon and movie and story that you've ever seen, is something about being this chosen one. And you're 100% right on that, man. They choose the people who seem to have an inclination to be able to understand what they're going to be able to receive, as well as people who have connections to, geez Louise, the Queen, or presidential candidacy, or what have you. These patterns are, they're you can't go through the study without recognizing these things. It's plain as day. Cause of death is explosion.
Yes. They've made movies about this guy, and it was a particularly, I can't remember what it's called, but it was in the last 10, 15 years. I saw it when I was on the road, and it was a very interesting movie. I already knew about the guy from our look into cosmology and the history of NASA long before we ever started this channel. So very familiar with this guy, and I'm sure a lot of our viewing audience is as well. We have a very intelligent viewing audience.
We do.
Very knowledgeable. A lot of you guys have channels of your own. So I'm sure you guys know a lot about this guy.
I gotta ask. I didn't know this. When it says cause of death explosion, please tell me what happened with this, please.
I believe it was some kind of a rocket fuel mishap.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've dug into his past. It's been the past when I dug into all this about Jack Parsons. Hey guys, if you didn't notice, it looks a little different. We had some technical difficulties. We always talk about doing everything in one take, so it won't be this time. But it's all right. We're going to get back into it with Jack Parsons. So let's go ahead and pull him back up.
All right.
Sorry about that, Bronson.
It's all good, man. Life happens. Just not getting moved into your place. So I think where we left off was I was laughing at the fact that this man's cause of death was an explosion, and that I don't know, for some reason when I read that I just thought this dude was just walking down the street and just went up.
Like spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
No. That would make it even more of a mysterious death. But no, I believe it was a rocket fuel incident. And we can look at it. I'm sure it says it somewhere in the bottom. But before we go anywhere, let's read right here in this paragraph. This is 1945. Because
Sure.
you had referenced it earlier about opening up a portal.
Yeah. 1945. Parsons separated from Helen after having an affair with her sister. These are such stand-up guys. When Sarah left him for L. Ron Hubbard, big name, Parsons conducted the Babylon Working, a series of rituals intended to invoke the Thelemic goddess Babylon on Earth. He and Hubbard continued the working with Marjorie Cameron, Marjorie Cameron, whom Parsons married in 1946. After Hubbard and Sarah defrauded him of his life savings, Parsons resigned from the Order Templar Orientis, then held various jobs while acting as a consultant for Israel's rocket program. Amid McCarthyism, Parsons was accused of espionage and left, unable to work in rocketry.
So he wasn't only an occultist, he's also a dirty commie.
In 1952, Parsons died at the age of 37 in a home laboratory explosion that attracted national media attention. The police ruled it an accident, but many associates suspected suicide or even murder. Okay, so yeah, he wasn't walking down the street and just had a spontaneous combustion, but
yeah, that Babylon Working was what you were referencing earlier, and let's pull that up.
Sure.
Because right after this Babylon Working, they did this ritual where they opened this portal in Roswell, New Mexico, and right after that, you get the Roswell crash, and you start seeing the explosion of I'm not calling it the new name. It's UFOs. You start seeing this, become more prevalent. Now, there's reports of this all throughout history, but really prevalent after this.
Yeah.
You want to read a little bit about this, or do you want to save this?
No, let's read it, man. This is to me, this is just, it's crazy. I remember the first time I heard it. The Babylon Working was a series of magic ceremonies or rituals performed from January to March in 1946 by author, pioneer rocket fuel scientist, and occultist Jack Parsons and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. This ritual was essentially designed to manifest an individual incarnation of Babylon. The project was based on the ideas of, you guessed it, Aleister Crowley, and his description of a similar project in his 1917 novel, Moonchild. The rituals of the working, almost immediately after Parsons declared that the first of the series of rituals was complete and successful, he met Marjorie Cameron in his own home and regarded her as the elemental that he and Hubbard had called through the ritual. Soon Parsons began the next stage of the series, an attempt to conceive a child through sex magic workings. Although no child was conceived, this did not affect the result of the ritual to that point. Parsons and Cameron, who Parsons now regarded as the Scarlet Woman Babylon, called forth by the ritual, soon married. The rituals performed drew largely upon rituals and sex magic described by English author and occult teacher Aleister Crowley. Crowley was in correspondence with Parsons during the course of the Babylon Working, and he warned him of his potential overreactions to the magic he was performing, while simultaneously deriding Parsons' work to others. A brief text entitled Liber 49, self-referenced within the text as the Book of Babylon, was written by Jack Parsons as a transmission from the goddess or force called Babylon, received by him during the Babylon working. He wrote that Liber 49 constituted a fourth chapter of Crowley's Liber Alvelagus, the Book of the Law, the holy text of Thelema. Now, this is
like we said before, just they build on each other and build on each other, and they have these spiritual forces that are imparting knowledge, and they just keep going further and further down the rabbit hole.
Man, this is where they claimed excuse me, that they opened up some type of portal, and then these aliens, demons, with these magical flying saucers came right through the portal. And like you said, right after,
Enochian magic.
Yep.
Another source is from the system of Enochian magic created by John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 16th century. This system is based upon a unique language, Enochian, two words of which are certainly relevant. The first is Babylon, which is translated as harlot, and the other is Babylon, which means wicked. Some flavor of context in which they appear can be found in communication received by Dee and Kelly in 1587. So you have the same stuff from back in the 16th century all the way up into the World War II era and afterwards. It's absolutely all tied in together because it's all coming from the same sources.
Yes, it's all interwoven. And these guys have had these secrets whispered into their ears for generations. And it takes generations to build upon these principles because, unfortunately for them, they have to die eventually. And that's kind of the issue, is that most of them are looking for some form of immortality, right? And most of them are so scared of death, as they should be.
Well, let's go down here, right here, to the Babylon's consort is chaos. That paragraph. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to point this out. He keeps on talking about Babylon, Babylon, Babylon. Well, it says right here, Babylon is usually depicted as riding a beast. She is often referred to as the sacred whore, and her primary symbol is the chalice of Graal. So, who rides the beast?
The whore of Babylon.
In the Bible, right. So this Babylon they're trying to conjure up is the whore of Babylon, as mentioned in the Bible.
Right. That's not a good idea. It's always toying with things they shouldn't be toying with, man. And even when Crowley's looking at you and saying, "Hey, bro, you should probably slow down." That's a big red flag.
And Aleister Crowley is saying, "Hey, cool it out a little bit, guys. Yeah, you might want to take a look at the mirror and reevaluate your life."
Yeah, really, slow it down, Chief. You're going too fast.
When Crowley's telling you to pump the brakes, you might be a little close to the cliff.
Yes, bro. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. We've covered this line. Let's go to a little bit more modern times. I tell you what, let's read a little bit about the actual person, and then we'll get to the rest of it.
This is the page for the Temple of Set, and we're going to come down here to our second paragraph. I've got it highlighted on your screen. The temple was established in the United States in 1975 by Michael Aquino, an American political scientist, military officer, and high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Dissatisfied with the direction in which LaVey was taking the church, Aquino resigned, and according to his own claim, embarked on a ritual to invoke Satan. That's stupid. Who revealed to him a sacred text called the Book of the Coming Forth by Night. According to Aquino, in this work, Satan revealed his true name to be that of Set, which had been the name used by his followers in ancient Egypt. Aquino was joined in establishing the temple by a number of other dissatisfied members of LaVey's church, and soon various Setian groups were established across the United States.
All right, so the guy that we're talking about tonight, could we pull up Michael Aquino?
Mm-hmm. Where's his name at? Right here.
Now, this guy was an offshoot of, I know we mentioned him earlier, Anton LaVey, which is the founder of the Church of Satan in California. Yeah, the guy with the eyebrows, the eyebrow dude.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Aquino. Now, him and all other people that were involved in the Church of Satan said that, in layman's terms, they said, "Oh man, Anton LaVey's Church of Satan isn't hardcore enough. They're just dressing up in basically cosplay. You know what? We're going to go over here and really get hardcore." And he was a military officer, high ranking within the military. Was he a colonel? I believe. I could be wrong in that.
I am not too sure. This is what we're looking for here. He's the founder of the Temple of Set. Yeah. Wow, this is a very...
Yeah, he was a colonel. Very high ranking.
Mm-hmm. Formerly known as Panfilos Laxon, Deputy Chief of Operations at the Task Force Habitat and Presidential Anti-Organized... Wow. He was a part of the Anti-Organized Crime Task Force. Wow.
Yeah, he's a cop in the military. And I would like to point out that a great deal of your police officers are Freemasons.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact.
That's something that's, I think, well known within kind of conspiracy communities, but it's not talked about a whole lot.
Oh, when I was doing some research, getting ready for this video, I happened to find an area. It was not in the United States, but it was in the United Kingdom, where the government had charged the Freemasons to release the information and the data that would tell them how many people in their parliament and government and law enforcement were members of the Freemasons, and they refused. And so the government did the duty themselves to find out what this number would be, and it was thousands. According to the numbers released, it was not the majority, but many people refused to answer. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't answer. But it was still thousands worth of law enforcement and legislation, judicial, and whatever else you could think of that would be involved in the UK government. I'm not educated on how that stuff works, but it was thousands of them. And so I can imagine over here in America, it is no different, if not even worse. So just to back up what you're saying.
Well, let's go back to that Temple of Set page.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these guys are... Yeah, these are the hardcore ones out of that Church of Satan.
Mm-hmm. So the theology is Setianism. And that's the difference here. If I go back up to the top, it's a new religious movement in form of Western esotericism. The temple espouses a religion known as Setianism, whose practitioners are called Setians. This is sometimes identified as a form of Satanism, but they're not embraced by the Setians. They want to be called something else. Satanism's, nah, that's for wussies. We're Setians. You know what I'm saying? Because according to this man, he invoked a ritual to invoke Satan, and he revealed his name unto him as Set, S-E-T, which is interesting because of the whole Isis Horus Set thing. A lot of this stuff starts to become a little more clear as you go in through all this. But Setians believe that Set is the real God, and that he has aided humanity by giving them a questioning intellect, the black flame, which distinguishes them from other animal species. Set is held in high esteem as a teacher whose example is to be emulated, but he is not worshipped as a deity. Highly individualistic in basis, the temple promotes the idea that practitioners should seek self-deification. There it is. And thus attain an immortality of consciousness. There we go. Setians believe in the existence of magic as a force, which can be manipulated through ritual. However, the nature of these rituals is not prescribed by the temple. Specifically, Aquino describes Setian practices as black magic, a term which he defines as idiosyncratically. This is This is our modern day black magic, dark magic. This is what
Left-hand path. Yep.
This is what all these people we've been looking into. This is their most current modern product of the work of John Dee all the way up until our man Mr. Aquino right here.
And
what
it's actually morphed a lot since here too. But if we're going to be talking about founders, because I tend to agree with Michael Aquino that Anton LaVey was more like dress up in black robes and have girls over and act dark and mysterious, almost like a Broadway production, which is why these guys left. But I think these are the actual worshipers of Satan here.
Yeah.
And the founders of that. And then it's spread out from here. Now, we got to, there's several interviews with this guy. You can find, I think he was on like Geraldo's show and he had a talk show back in the day. But we have a clip. Let's look at this clip a little bit just so you can kind of get the vibe off this guy.
If the devil lives anywhere, it could be in San Francisco.
From our point of view, it really makes no difference whether you pray to a father god or to a mother goddess or to an entire gaggle of gods and goddesses. You're still wishing the same thing. You're still wishing to be included. You're still wishing for their acceptance. You're waiting for them to put their arm or arms around you and say, you belong, you are part of us, you can relax, we will take care of you, we approve of you, we endorse you. The Satanist, the black magician, does not seek that kind of submergence of the self. We do not seek to have our decisions and our morality approved or validated by any higher god or being. We take responsibility unto ourselves.
The Temple of Set follows the ancient Egyptian Prince of Darkness, Satan in another guise. It's America's only legal satanic church and enjoys tax-free status. Lilith Sinclair and temple director Michael Aquino edit the satanic newsletter. It has a circulation of 75.
Basically, Christians, as well as many other religions, and even a lot of the occult groups around, are afraid of us. We threaten them. Not physically, but our existence and our philosophy threatens their security because we pose questions that they don't want to face and that they don't have answers for.
The Temple of Set emerged from the Church of Satan, founded in the mid-60s by Anton LaVey, a one-time lion tamer and carnival performer, and the Church of Satan's self-appointed magus.
Satan, Leviathan, Lucifer, in the name of our most exalted God, Satan, Lucifer, I command thee to come forth. Shemham Barash. Shemham Barash. Hail, Satan. Hail, Satan.
Friend and companion of the night, thou who rejoicest in the baying of dogs and spilt blood, look favorably on our sacrifices. Open wide the gates of hell, and come forth. Shemham Farash.
Shemham Barash. Hail, Satan.
Well, it occurred to me for many, many years that there was a large gray area between psychiatry and religion that was untapped, and no religion had ever been based on man's carnal needs or his fleshly pursuits. All religions are based on abstinence rather than indulgence, and all religions, therefore, have to be based on fear. Well, we don't feel that fear is necessary to base a religion on. The fact that religions for thousands of years have been telling people what they should do and what they shouldn't do according to the basic whims of a person who might be running the show is very understandable. We're realists, we Satanists, but we also feel that a person has to be good to themselves before they can be good to other people.
There's your self-love movement. And then when it talked about, you shouldn't have to listen to anyone and be your own God, you shall be as gods. It's the serpent in the garden. It's all right there, man. And it's all built on the principles of the other founders that come before it. You're muted.
I've been saying this whole time, gross. It's just gross.
Yeah.
What blows my mind is that no matter how many times, not my first, second, third, fourth, or 10th time going down this rabbit hole, and every single time I'm appalled and disgusted at the things that I have to hear and see these guys talk about. It's
Yeah, well, I didn't want to go. It gets worse as we go along, so I didn't want to keep it going. They said enough that I really didn't even want to hear myself, but I just want people to see that, this is real stuff. This is all what we're going up against. And I'll tell you what, let's before we go, let's pull up that Bible verse again where it talks about idolatry and witchcraft, and these are, what I call, I don't think I'm the first one to call this, but the fruits of the serpent.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Do you notice none of these guys, and you can go back and look at how Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey died, and none of them die in bliss and happiness, surrounded by children and happy, and
nope.
There's no peace.
Nope. I'm glad you said that. I'm very, very close to someone who is related to someone who lived their entire life as a devout follower of Satan. When I say devout, I mean it. And this person may or may not be dead. Nobody knows because nobody cares. There's not a single loved one who would care that he's missing or not missing or would call the police to do a wellness check. There's no neighbors because he has isolated himself far away from everybody else. His own children had a pool, a bet, if you will, on how he would die. And one of his children bet alone in his home. And then he probably was correct on that. It's been months and months since the last time they've heard from this guy. And no one cares. No one's going to check. No one's going to notify anybody. And that just seems to be the destiny of these chosen ones who've received the words and incantations and visions from these demons that are so special, powerful, and enlightened, is at the end of the day, they die alone. And
usually in great amounts of pain also, from a life of debauchery and turning away from the Most High God. They chose to drink from the dark waters instead of the fountains of life.
Yeah. And from what I understand, this person had quite the life in the 70s, had a great time in their youth, but by the end of it all, you got nothing to show for it and nobody to share it with and no lineage or legacy to pass on. The works of the flesh are manifest. These are adulteries, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murderers, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I also tell you in time past, they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
All right, we can cut the screen share. I just wanted to show that one more time. That's the work of the flesh, what I call the fruits of the serpent.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Now, guys, I know that we covered some dark people and some dark subjects tonight, but we're really building on to going deep and showing you guys exactly what's going on with this. And there's a lot of history tonight and old stuff. Now you say, man, well, Austin, why look at all these old people? Well, you saw that natural progression and how it all built upon each other. Our next episode we're getting into is going to be tackling culture, sports, politics, just everything you can imagine within culture has been permeated by this witchcraft and sorcery. It's all there, and it's in your face more and more and more as we go. And we're going to show you a lot of people that are involved in this that you would never believe that are. Especially when we get into the Kabbalistic stuff, which we saw tonight. Each and every one of these people have a baseline understanding, at least, of the Kabbalah, and I hold it in high regard. Some people, I think a few of these people actually wrote books specifically on the Kabbalah and the mystical Kabbalah and all this type of stuff. So we're going to be building, we're going to be doing one of these a week for the next 3 weeks, and it's going to be a 3-part series. it's going to be a wild ride, guys. So just hang in there. We're going to show you some stuff in our next episode. It's going to blow your minds, and some of it you may not like. You may not seeing who is involved in this type of stuff, because there's some that you would never think. You would never think, but you got to look for the signs and the symbols and the things that they do and the things they wear and the things they say and how they say them.
Yes.
This is going to get deep on us. Now, coming up, the next episode we're going to drop is our next Bible commentary. We're going to break it up with Bible commentary. Some of you guys might not even want to look into the stuff, and I don't blame you. Good for you. But for those of you that want to really get into and understand the spiritual darkness that's out there and the spiritual battle that's going on and what we're up against and what these people believe, we're going to show it to you. So just stay tuned over these next couple of weeks, and we're gonna dive in.
Yeah, man.
Do you have any words of closing, sir?
I sure do, and I think they're very important to say, because this is a subject that I have labeled the waters in my life, and this is one that you can go deep, and you can start to run out of air down here. It gets very dark, it gets very disgusting and gross, and this is not a subject that the rest of the world wants to hear about. That's why we started this video with a really cool teaser that's very uplifting at the end, because I was a young guy, very young, when I started to learn about these things, and it affected me in so many ways where I felt like I had found such news. I was taught such news, and I wanted to share it with everybody I ran across, anybody who seemed to show any type of inclination into conspiracies or Christianity or whatever. And I can tell you from personal experience, and I say this with nothing but kindness in my heart, I promise, and respect, the world does not care. And it will make you feel very hurt and very alone. And they'll call you names. They'll call you crazy. They'll tell you you're on the fringe. And I promise you, you are not. This is just knowledge to have, knowledge of the enemy. It helps you better navigate your walk through Christ and how to approach the evil side. It helps you actually speak to other Christians in a much more fluent way than what I ever could before. But there is a process in the meantime that comes of understanding these things and knowing that not all this information has to be told to everybody you run across. And for yourself,
let me say this real quick, brother. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know a lot of people be like, "Why do we even need to know this?" And I get it. You don't need to know this if you're just going to live your life and everything else. But I have kids. Bronson has a kid on the way. All right, it's in everything. And if you don't have your eyes open to it, you won't be able to shield your children from it and to keep them from it. This is why one of the reasons it's very, very important. It says to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. That's the theme of this whole series.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to protect your children, you better know what to protect them from. Okay? So it's on their clothes that you get from Target and Walmart and all these signs and symbols that we're going to get into. And I believe in the third part. The third part may be 5 hours long. I'm just being serious. You should see the list. We've already mapped it all out. It's a list. We had to cut some out of this one, and this is going to be close to 3 hours. Mm-hmm. It's so much out there. This is why we're going into it, is to show what's going on, because it's in the books, it's in TV shows, it's in video games, it's in children's programming. I mean, like I said, even down to the clothes that you go buy in the children's department at Target will have these signs and symbols and sayings on them, these little like cutesy things. I saw a picture of a baby when I was doing the research that had a baby like onesie on that said, "Do what thou wilt" on the onesie, marking their children with quotes from Aleister Crowley and all these other sick people. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to say, in case you think like, well, why do I need to know this? Well, this is why. It's to protect you, to protect your children, so you know what you're looking at and you know who you're dealing with. We're going to show you certain things that people wear and everything else as we go along in this, to help you identify someone who is not on your side. It is not on the side of the Most High God, not on the side of the true Church of God. Okay?
Thank you.
This is really why we're breaking this down, is to really be an enlightening thing, so you can protect yourself and your families, and to keep certain things and certain shows and certain people even from crossing the airways into your home.
Yes, I was raised in a Christian household, and this stuff had a grip on my spirit like you would not believe. For
Right.
many years, I was practicing this stuff, and I've alluded to this story before, but I suppose now is the time to tell it. And I'll keep it short because I know this has been a very long video. We're approaching up on 2 o'clock here in the morning here, but the true, honest reason why I picked up the Bible the first time, was because I wanted to see where the power was. I was looking for the miracles, the prophecies. I was scouring this Bible, scavenging every corner I could find to see where the witchcraft was, to see where the power was. That was the first time I picked it up. That's different from the stories I tell the first time I read the Bible, okay? And picked it up and read it are two different sections of my life. But that is what happened to me. And I was raised in a Christian household. I can't imagine the things that toil these people, the dreams they must be having, the night visions, the sleep paralysis, and things that happen to a poor child in a household where they have no spiritual protection. They're hoping for a Himalayan pink salt lamp and burning sage to protect them from demons. I mean, my goodness.
Isn't that the funniest thing in the world? Yeah, just let's spread a little circle of salt and burn some sage to protect us from these entities that have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Yeah, it's really gonna work for you.
Yeah, good
Sweetheart.
luck.
Jesus.
But in conclusion, man, always remember, this is the verse that brings me the most peace out of all of this stuff, is just remember that we will have tribulation in the world, but fear not. Christ has overcome the world, and we are a part of that. And that's where I'll leave it for the rest of the night. I'm really looking forward to part 2 and 3. The Bible commentaries are along the way. And with that, man, that's it for me. Austin, close us out, my friend.
All right, guys, I just want to say, like, share, subscribe to this video, just like everybody says. But we've had a few comments. If you guys see somebody in our comments that is asking for prayer or anything like that, let's just go in agreement with each other that, you know, if you are a believer in the Most High God and believer in His Son, Jesus Christ, if you see somebody asking for prayer in our comments, please join in with us and pray for these folks, okay? I know we got a message earlier, and as soon as I saw it, I stopped everything I was doing, said a prayer, sent a message out. If you're watching this, you know, you said you were a new subscriber. If you're watching this here at the end, I told you to message us on X, and I mean it. You know, if you need anything at all, what you were asking about, I'm not going to put you on blast here. We've both struggled with that. Probably me more than Bronson, to be honest with you. Been around the block a lot. A whole lot. Bronson dove a little bit more to the spiritual part. I was in the street doing all kinds of stupid stuff. So don't think that we're going to judge you or anything. We're not the you know, beat you down in front of the whole church Christians or anything like that. So I said message me on X so we can talk privately, and I do mean that. So that's all I really want to say. That's what was on my heart to really get off before we got out of here. But that goes for anybody. If you need prayer, ask for it in the comment section. Message us on X. You just need somebody to talk to. Some questions about God. Maybe you're uncertain about things, going through things in your life or something like that. We said it before, and it always feels dirty saying it because there's so many crappy people out there. But this is a ministry. You don't have to donate to us to agree with us that, you know, God is, you know, great, and that we want to pray about things and we want to talk about things to help people out. That's what we're here for. You don't have to send us no money for that. I swear to God, just hit us up on X, and you don't have to blow your stuff up publicly like on a YouTube comment. You can do it privately on X if you want to, or you could just say it in the comments. You know, unsaid prayer. God knows the need. You know, just we'll say a prayer for you for sure, like we did with the guy today that commented. But we just want to let everybody in the community know we're here for you guys if you need us. We always say we're normal guys, and it's true. We are. And we've been through a lot of different stuff. Some things he has, some things I have. There's no judgment here. None whatsoever. God's the judge. And I got my own stuff, yeah, that I, big man, I know you say you don't remember, but let's just make sure, please don't remember this, you know? So, really, if you need anything from us, we are here. We're easy to reach on X. If you don't hear from us, as soon as we see it, we get back to you. So, we do love you guys on the other side of the screen. We appreciate our community. We appreciate the people that reach out to us, whether it's prayer or just, hey guys, doing a great job, whatever. Keep it coming. whatever you guys need, you know, we're here for you guys as much as we can be. So that's all I had to say, and that's it for me for the night.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much for viewing. We appreciate you all very, very much. Your words of kindness just touch our souls. You just have no idea what it does for us. And with that being said, we will catch you next time on Ancient Echoes.